Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. We have Jack Fox with us today. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you for having me.
It is 6/26/2026, which means that today is the plea deal deadline for Laura Owens. And we probably won't find out anything today, but we'll know more on Monday. So Jack is from Never a Truer Word on YouTube, and I have your channel linked down below. So if you guys want, please go subscribe to Jack. Your content is wonderful. And the way you put it together, masterful. So tell me who you are, where you're from, and how you got into YouTube.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Jack. I could tell you this great big story about me, but really, when I was a child, I was really picky, especially with my mum. You know, when she'd be telling me off, and she'd be like, "You can't do something until you do this," and I'd find a loophole in her words and be like, "There you go, you got," and she wouldn't have any of it. But that was sort of my genesis, if you like, of like realizing that you can play with words. Then I had a career in radio. And at the same time, I had an interest, don't ask why, because that's a long story, in hypnotherapy. But both of those things rely really heavily on words. So when you work in radio, words are all you have to influence people. So there's a real big difference between choosing the right words and choosing the wrong words when you work in radio. And you can make a real big difference. Think about if you are, so I wrote some radio advertising, so the wording that you use in that can have all the difference between successful sale or, something that just falls flat. And the same in hypnotherapy, because when you're treating a patient, you're using embedded suggestions to them, and how they are worded is really important. So I got really interested in the psychology of words and how I could use them to influence people. And I hope always or mostly in an ethical way, so like, not manipulatively or anything like that. And I realized after a while that, what I thought I was really good at and, really on top of, everyone's doing every single day. We are the words that we all use. We are using those specific words for a reason. When you know that, you can then look at the words that people use to see what's going on with them. And I find that fascinating about how you actually, and why people choose words, which I can talk about really quickly because it's so simple to get. But when you know that, you can learn a whole lot more about the world around you and about the motivations of people. And my passion is sort of educating people in that, which sounds very like pretentious. I just want people to watch what I do and come away, and then maybe they will meet a liar, an abuser, just someone trying to get one over of them later on in their life, and they'll go, "Oh, wait a minute, Jack said, watch out for that word," or "Watch out for this." And so
I've done that now. After I've watched your videos, I've started in the way that I read things. I'm like, hey, this doesn't say this. It sounds like now I've started like tuning in better to the things that I'm reading.
Yeah. So, and that's my hope. And, true crime is just a great place to go to for that. And because you've kind of got the worst of humanity talking. And actually, you listen to a serial killer talk, and maybe this is a serial killer that is hiding their motivations or something. They use the exact same patterns as maybe a salesperson who's trying to upsell you on something. The word patterns will be the exact same. The intention is a lot less malevolent, but if you're aware of that, then you can protect yourself against some of those things in your life.
Is this something that you can turn on and off when you're having like regular conversations with people?
Yeah, I mean, so we're going to look at a script that Laura Owens wrote today. I've been working on this for hours. And half an hour ago, I sat down and looked at the work I'd done, and I still noticed new things to put in and go, "Oh, I haven't got that." And yeah, that's a point there. And so very quickly, someone can send me an email and I can go, "Oh yeah, you're hiding something there because you said you're just checking in." I'm like, "No, you're chasing me. You're not just checking in." But when I'm having a just general conversation with someone, I'm not really sitting there. That really word is saying that sometimes I do, but I'm not really sitting there going, "What's this person's motivation?" For example, over the past 24 hours, you and me have had a DM conversation that was quite fractured because I was just crazy day yesterday.
Well, and our time schedules are so different.
Yeah, I wasn't sitting there going, what's she saying? Like, what's going on with her? What does she want, or anything like that? So no, I don't do that. And trust me, I get, trust me, it's something I teach people not to say, but people send me a lot of messages going, I wanted to send you an email and it's taking me like 3 hours to write it because I wanted to make sure it would pass your test. And it's, yeah, just send me an email. It's fine.
Yeah, I send DMs like with my mouth. So I just like hit the speech button and like whatever comes out, I'm like, and that's what I sent you to. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is going to be so great.
But that, and you know, we're going to look at the Laura, the first version of the Laura Owens thing.
Mhm.
When you're doing that, when you're going, hey, Jack, that is your first draft and you're sending it. And that's brilliant because
Right.
that will be a little bit more revealing than if you polished it, you know, like, so I got an email from, so I was telling you before we're on, it's really hot here in England at the moment.
Mhm.
It's a heat wave. And I've noticed about 3-4 p.m. every day, which is an hour, it was an hour ago, I get really ratty, you know, like I'm really hot. I'm really like, rah.
Mhm.
And someone sent me an email a couple of days ago. That's not the point. The point is, whatever, you know, something in the earlier email. Who the F do you think you are telling me what the point is? Did it? And then I stopped. And that was my first draft. And I didn't press send. And it was like,
Oh, okay. I was
thank you
like,
for that.
wait.
Yeah, I think you've got a point there. I'll take that one on board, etc., etc. But when you're sending the voice notes, that's first draft material, and I know you could delete. If it was really bad, you wouldn't send it. But yeah, it's you know, the more instinctive someone's words are, the better.
So today we're going to talk about, obviously we found that we have the original transcript or the original script that she wrote. And then somewhere in there, uh, whether she, I don't know the difference between them. So she writes the original script and then does she start riffing off of it and start adding details? Because the first version and the last version have a lot of differences in them.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to do, it's just hard for me now in the Laura Owens case. I like to approach things knowing nothing about the story so that I'm not pulled in one way or the other around biases. For example, when you're looking at some Laura Owens words, you just go, right, where are the lies in this? And that's
Yeah.
probably not the right way to approach these things. But I'll try the best I can. And one of the things I did on this was that I looked entirely at this original one that we're going to look at for, you know, hours and hours and hours. And then I started doing like a prop. I've seen the TED Talk, so I know kind of like how it goes and how it sounds. But then I started looking at the differences. And what was really interesting was that many of the things I'm going to point out are not there in the original, turn up in the one that was published. Someone, Laura, her TED Talk coach, mom, has gone, right, you know, it's missing these beats as a story, and you have to add them in, which when you're telling a true life story is an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I think it's so you and I are on the same page. I actually had a graphic made of the original script and then the recorded transcript and everything that was different so we can see side by side how different it actually is. And as I was looking at it pulled down, I'm like, there's so many things that weren't mentioned in the original script that she like beefs up for the
Yeah.
final edited version.
Beef up. That's a great way of describing it. The final one is beefed up. And as we go through the original, I'll show you, not knowing exactly what was in that final script, where my questions are. And then when we look at the final one, you see the beefing up. You know, it's almost as if she's taking my direction, even though obviously she didn't, because I did it afterwards. I have to kind of, before we go and look at it though, I think we
Oop.
need to remember what a TED Talk is about.
Mhm.
And it's a performance. And I've seen some people kind of have a go at Laura and say, you know, oh, this is not true, that's not true. And actually, like, sorry, but I think a lot of TED Talks are probably not true. It's someone putting in a performance, especially TEDx talks. People, you know, I think, you know, here Laura was looking to make a name for herself in a certain sphere. So that was her goal in doing this. So although I'm going to pull apart lots that's in there and lots of word choices that's in there, this is the aim is to, I think, make a name for herself in a certain niche. And I think a lot of TEDx talks especially are like that. I had a few years ago sat and spoke with a guy who was very active in men's mental health. He'd done a
Mhm.
TEDx talk, and you know, this was his chance to be a nice guy wanting to make a difference, to being someone who really could make a difference. he wanted his TEDx talk to get him access to companies where lots of men work and there's lots of male mental health problems. If he had just told his story, it might not have been as effective because you need some dramatic flair and hooks in there
Yeah.
to
I
get
mean,
the
you
attention.
you got to get people to listen.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that. Having said, I'm not going to sit here now and go, I'm not going to say anything. Also, the other thing is, so she watches everything, doesn't she? Laura's not that great a writer. And, so some of this is
What?
going to fall really flat. And it's because she's not that great a writer. I don't think she is as smart and as erudite as she thinks she is. So it's going to fall down a little bit on that, which might make it seem like deceptive or, like just all a bit sort of sketchy.
Mhm.
Actually, it just means that, her writing is, not the best. She at some points here, she's trying to write fiction from someone else's point of view, right? I
Right.
couldn't do that, right? It's not in my gift to do either, and I don't think it's in Laura's gift either because it's really, really poor. But it doesn't mean it's sketchy. It just means her imagination or her empathy, I think, as we'll see, is not the best.
I think though, like especially when you're telling a story of abuse or like domestic violence, when you start to put in all these flowery big words and like everything detailed except for what happened, it starts making it less believable. I would
Yeah,
much rather listen to a woman tell the bare bones facts of that story than just I don't know. As I was reading it, I'm like, I don't care about any of this stuff. And I get it. You have to tell the story where you were going, what you were doing, but it's so much of nothing.
yeah. Two things on that. The first thing is that if you haven't experienced something authentically, it's really hard to convey it in words. So there you go. Right, I'm suffering a heat wave right now. It's maybe overstating it for people who really are, but I've certainly gone through it this week in terms of heat. Now I could sit and talk to you about how that's affected me, how I felt, things I did yesterday, what I've learned about how heat affects us as people, and so on. I can
Mm,
talk to you all very authentically because I've experienced it this week. If we flip the switch and I wanted to talk to you about what it's like to walk through the North Pole in the middle of winter, I couldn't do it. I would have to bring that from my imagination, not from my experience, and I would be using a lot of different words, and it wouldn't hold together
mhm.
because I haven't experienced it, and that therefore comes from a different part of my brain. The other thing I wanted to say was you said there. I just if I wanted to hear a story like this, I just want to hear the bare facts. And I do, as an aside, another podcast which is about speaking with credibility and authority. So if you worry about do people believe me, like do people laugh at me when I talk, all that sort of stuff. And the biggest thing that I teach in that podcast series is brevity. Less is more. You
Okay.
don't need to flower up your
Right.
story. You will be the most credible person in the room if you say what happened and stop and just what happened. No,
Right.
flowery words around it or so on. And sorry, I've thought of one more thing which I think is really
No,
important,
think of all the
which is
things. I'm here forever. Think of all the things.
um, that what really gets me about this TED talk is that she comes very close to describing domestic violence and physical abuse here. And I find it horrendous that she's appropriating that. If you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and it's and as we go through this, I might be going, do you know what? This is rubbish, or that's a crap depiction, or I don't believe this. That is not me saying if someone else told me a story, I wouldn't believe that. Or if a woman does have a domestic violence story to tell, she needs to tell it in a way that suits me. That's not, what I'm saying at all. And I hate the fact that Laura Owens can put me in that position because if this was true, that person would have my utmost sympathy and empathy.
Well, and it's interesting because as somebody who has experienced domestic violence, as I was reading this morning, I'm like, listen, there's two things that you don't mess with me, and it's my time and my coffee. And I was having my coffee this morning and I'm reading this and I'm the whole time I'm just like, I hate you so much. Like, like there's just you're reading it and you're going through your own life experiences and you're like, this is never the way myself or other women or even men who experienced this would tell this story. I mean, we would all tell it very differently and how we experienced it, but not this. It's not, there's no romance to domestic violence. And that's what it seems like. It seems like this is like a, a novel.
Yes, in everything you can read from Laura, sorry, I won't say everything because maybe there are some bits where this doesn't come together, but in most things you read from her, from the Medium blog of, I got pregnant by the Bachelor and so on, her default thing to talk about, to write about, is process, not emotion. Not, like when I think about, the pregnancy with Clayton, I know from her point of view, all the process, where she went, why she thought she was pregnant, which tests she had done, the interactions between her and Clayton. I don't have any sense whatsoever in, if I believed her story, I don't have any sense about how excited she was that she was pregnant, or apprehensive that she was pregnant, how shitty morning sickness felt, like all those emotional things that come through. Pregnancy is, on the surface, pregnancy is bringing another life into the world, right? That's just a huge thing. Factor in the emotion of all of that, it gets even bigger. And then women have hormonal reactions to the whole changes that are going on in their body and so on. And that makes that emotion even bigger. And yet nearly everything Laura has written about pregnancy is process. The doctor's appointment is here. The test, she describes it HCG tests or something like that. Those are pregnancy tests. What those mean to women are, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a baby, not, the HCG. I was going to pick something up here as if I was going to wave a pregnancy test.
Well, I have to tell you, I knew that I had HCG as a pregnant woman. I could never, I've had 2 pregnancies. I could never, under any circumstance, tell you how much I had. It's ridiculous. And the one thing that stuck with me the first time that I listened to you, or maybe it was in my chat, was how you mentioned that she became pregnant. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Because for women, it's like, no, I got pregnant, or I am pregnant, or I was pregnant.
I am pregnant, for just in that very natural environmental way that women are hardwired to have children. And by and large, it's such a big thing. You don't become pregnant, you are pregnant,
Right.
and it becomes you, it's part of your body, and it's right there. I don't see any of that. And it's, I could not, I've spent a lot of time studying pregnant people. Sounds a bit creepy. That's not quite what I was going to say, but if you and me someone said, right, let's write a couple of paragraphs about what it's like to be pregnant, I'd have a good stab at it. You'd have a great stab at it because you have the authentic part of it. And then we put it down in front of some people, and I'm sure they would find which person had been pregnant and which person was making it up.
Well, and that's the thing is, I'm thinking about it. The first thing I would say is like, when I was pregnant, like I was that. You are that thing.
Yeah.
That whole, you're right. It's a whole being.
Yeah.
Do you have the draft? Do you have it like highlighted, or do you want me to pull it up?
If you pull it up, because I've got it with a whole load of notes in it that will only mean anything to me in front of me.
That's all right. We got it. So this is okay. So for everybody who doesn't understand in the chat, what we have is the original script that she walked into TED Talk with. After this, we will have the final transcript. And then I have a little curveball that I'm going to throw at Jack. I don't know if he has seen this before, but we'll definitely go over it. But let's go over this first. So do you want to read it? Do you want me to read it? Do you
who wants to play the part of Laura? That's,
I mean, I do it every day.
I know you do.
It's now my life. It's who I am as a person.
Oh God, I'm not sure I could comment if you use your Laura Owens voice at the end of it. I would just be in hysterics.
That would be it. That would be. You know what? There comes a time when it's too much. Even for me, I'm like, I need a break from this.
All right. Well, let me pick it up for a bit.
Okay.
And the first thing I want to say here. So we've spoken about who's the audience, and I think when we're analyzing a piece of writing, it's always very instructive to kind of go, who's the audience here? Who is that person writing for? So for me, this is TEDx viewers, but people who can take her to the next level, help get her to the next level. And the first part here is fiction, and I'm not criticizing it for being fiction.
No, and it's interesting that you say that, because as somebody who would be giving a speech, my audience would be another survivor or somebody
Yes.
who was coming into or somebody who was dealing with it for the first time. That's my audience.
And this is Laura writing from Napkin Lady's point of view. So she has to do this at the very beginning, put herself inside the mind of someone else. Now, if you're not very good with empathy, that's going to be a much harder thing to do. So there's going to be some things in here that really don't hold up because this is coming from the imagined part of her head, not the experienced part of her head. So not necessarily sketchy. And I think one of the other things, not only is I don't think she's a great writer of this fiction, she's not a very good performer of it in the video. So when she's acting it out in the video, I think that really detracts from it as well.
I'll
Anyway,
say it. She sucks all around. I'll just
she's very good at delaying court cases. I'll give her that. She's way better than me. Right. December 30, 2016, flight 162, non-stop San Francisco to Iceland, seat 21H. You've made it to the plane, and after 3 months of planning, your once-in-a-lifetime trip to the land of fire and ice has begun. The flight should be a time to drift off to sleep, to dream about seeing the northern lights, to wonder what it would be like to soak in the Blue Lagoon, and to think about what to do for New Year's Eve dinner. Only you can't because of the noise in the, and this is the first bit I'm going to pull out, the noise in the background. And what we're going to see all the way through this are contradictions. Because she's going to explain later that this was like, verbal abuse being thrown and someone sobbing and so on. Is that a noise in the background or is that a noise in your foreground? But it's just this hum in the background, the way she starts to describe it here. She says it's not the roaring of the jet engines, it's the loud voice of a man sitting behind you. Is the loud voice of a man sitting behind you ever background noise? And we've got these contradictions here. That is why, obviously, it's not something she's experienced because she's not Napkin Lady. I mean, I don't. But this is what I mean about when you pull things out of your experiences, the words will hang together a hell of a lot better than when you imagine things because you just won't be able to make it quite right. So that's why I think we've got a noise in the background, but it's the loud voice of a man sitting behind you and the woman incessantly sobbing. He's spewing insults at her, and the more she cries, the harsher they become, one after another after another. That's not background, that is foreground. So
Yeah.
it's like, whoa.
Well, and experiencing this too as a man between a woman, a man, I could just envision my husband and I on a plane. My husband's like, put your headphones in, mind your own business. And I'd have one headphone down and be like, like you're always, especially as a woman, you are in tune with
Yes.
everything that's going on.
Yes. Also, what is, and this is, I guess, a good thing here. If you just look at that paragraph we've looked at, it's in terms of pronouns, there's no joint pronouns like they or we or anything like that. It's he and she, which is actually the very well described fight or argument when we are connected with people and when we know them well, we'll use we and they or our as our pronouns. When we're apart from people, we tend to talk a little bit more about she, he, I, them, those non-joint pronouns, and you use more of those joint pronouns the better that you get on. So you and I have just met half an hour ago for the first time. So you and I I've just said you and I, right? You and I, two singular pronouns. By the end of this, if this goes really well and we get on, I might say, we had a great time, didn't we?
Yeah.
And, I've moved our pronouns closer because I've spent time with you and hopefully we're not calling each other names at the end of this, but like,
God damn it, Jack.
which is we can learn a lot about relationships from the pronouns people use, and pronouns are one of those things that we automatically use. You don't think when you're talking like, oh, what pronoun should I use for this person? We very instinctively pull those pronouns out in our brain. We might be thinking about the fancy word to use, or what's the best way of describing that color or something like that. But pronouns, boom, our brain just automatically sends them to our mouth.
Now, I might be getting ahead of myself, but when you're using words like loud voice, incessantly sobbing, spewing, right? This reads to me very loud, and we never hear of them being confronted by flight attendants or anybody who works on the plane to be like, "Hey, you guys need to cut it out. Like there's never a third party that comes in to just kind of quell this situation.
That's because we'll come to this in 3 paragraphs' time. It
Got
wasn't
it.
loud. As the hours pass, he's becoming more frightening, more threatening. You could just put noise cancelling headphones on, block it all out. You have every right to think of their conversation as an annoyance.
Wow. Okay.
She hasn't described the conversation. She's only described the man talking and the woman sobbing incessantly.
Which would say to me, you would write, you have every right to think their argument
Yes.
is annoyance.
Yes. Or his bullying or his abuse or anything like that, because that's what she's described is bullying and abuse and shouting and, but actually is then described as a conversation, which again, there's leakage there. I've heard Mike's side of this story. So he's, saying that the two people were, she was talking to him. He was also talking to her. That's a conversation. Yeah. Two people exchanging words. And I think that is a bit of leakage there, that while she wants to give the drama of spewing insults and threatening and frightening, there was a conversation going on. And also annoyance is like, again, a noise in the background, like a fly buzzing around or something like that, rather than, something that, hours of abuse and so on, overhearing that's more than annoyance. But these very small words here used to describe it.
Well, and as a female sitting directly in front of them, I would be fearful. I'm in a metal tube with you for 12 hours, and this guy is screaming at this woman.
I was on a train yesterday, and at the very last stop, someone got on the train and they were very loud, and they were either really drunk or potentially like mentally, like just disabled, like really,
Yeah.
But they were shouting and they were aggressive. And you talk about your response to things as a woman, as a man, I was like, do I need to step up here? Do I need to, ask this person to be quiet, or actually is it all going to be nicely, contained and so on? None of that appears in this, whatsoever.
Right.
That was there. Did you spot the other thing in that paragraph that we just looked at?
Noise canceling headphones to lock it out. Annoyance to flag down a stewardess or ask them to be quiet. Right.
Ask who to be quiet?
A stewardess?
No, a stewardess to ask them to be quiet.
Okay.
Well, this napkin lady wanted Laura to be quiet in her telling of the story.
Oh,
because it's
right.
not him to be quiet, it's them to be quiet.
Right. Well, and it's funny because like I try to parse what I know, right? And when we were on the Michael Maricini fundraiser, one of the things that he said was when he was on the flight with Laura, it mimicked that video that she put out on Facebook about Steve calling her dumb. And it was just like a lot of these loud noises, but there were no tears. So it's interesting. You're right, because it would be for them both to be quiet, not her.
Yeah.
Right.
So napkin lady, the only person in the world that's ever been on Laura Owens' side in anything, in the words there, wanted Laura Owens to shut up on that flight. And Mike, I won't, remove him from that story in the telling, but it's just all this little leakage for me that says that something did happen on this flight, but it wasn't one-sided. It was, I think, quieter than Laura would like us to think from her TED Talk writing, and also involved the two of them rather than just him bearing down on her. So what comes next? It's then again, the man is scary and the woman is a stranger. You feel sorry for her, but there's nothing you can do to help her. So the pronouns have gone apart again here. So the man is scary, the woman is a stranger. And there's nothing you can do to help her. You feel sorry for her. So once again, we're in this convincing depiction of people, having not being together, not being lovey-dovey and cuddling up in the seats or anything like that. We've gone to those split pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
You have every right and every reason to do nothing. But then he leaves his seat to go to the bathroom. She continues to cry. You quickly look over your shoulder and peek through the space between the seats. Now, I think this is just crap fiction writing.
Right.
The person in front doesn't know that he's gone to the bathroom. He doesn't know he leaves his seat to go to the bathroom. He's just, he's not there. She might see him, go that way or something like that. But it's more written from actually the point of view of from the person who's going to the bathroom. That's what that depicts. Like the fact where he's going is not really that important, but he leaves his seat would be more important, but that detail to the bathroom doesn't sink in for me. It doesn't feel like it flows. That's the point of view, actually, of the companion, not someone sitting in front of them. You know, think about being in a plane. The person behind you gets up and moves. You might presume they're going to the toilet, but also they could be going to speak to someone else on the flight, or going for a walk because, you know, they want to stretch their legs or something like that. If you're sitting next to the person, you're with the person, they go, I'm just going to the toilet. Does that make sense?
And you know what's funny is I had said like a lot of flowery words, and I don't want it to be too over dramatized. But when you're reliving these moments, it would be like you then realize that this man gets up, storms off, had shaken the seat because it's a close, like there would be a moment of anger that she then also feels because it's disruptive to her.
Yeah. She carries on. She has a face now. She's someone's daughter, someone's friend, and she's in danger. And I don't get the danger. There's that is not expanded on, you know, like,
Right.
and it's opinion dressed up as fact. If it had been, I feel she's in danger, or I want to warn her of the danger I can see for her, or something like that,
Right.
it would be a little bit more expansive. But she's in danger is stated as a fact when it's an opinion. There's a napkin under your cocktail and a pen in your purse. How did you know it was cocktail? Anyway, there's a napkin under your cocktail and a pen in your purse. If you're going to say something, this is your chance. While he's not here, what would you do? I'm curious of that wording of if you're going to say something. Why didn't she do the easiest thing, which would be to turn around and talk to that person?
Right. Turn around and say, are you okay?
Are you okay? Yes,
right.
Exactly that. That, you know, are you all right? Do you need me to do anything? Would be,
right. Do you need help right now?
Yeah.
Right.
And look, that I'm not saying napkin didn't happen. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. But again, in the writing of it, there's no explanation as to why that didn't happen. Do you know, there is no expansion. Also, like, why was it written? You know, there's a pen in the purse. It was written on the napkin. But again, you know, if this was me, and I'm not saying everyone should live their life by me, but I've got a prop. My book goes everywhere with me. So I write a note here and pass it to that person. So it's not, again, there's a pen in your purse, but I don't have anything to write on. And, you know, I don't have anything. Oh, there's a napkin under my cocktail. I could use that. Do you know, like, that's the, you know, it makes it sound as if writing on a napkin is the easiest thing in the world. On you go.
I just thought about, I'm going to have to look back at that picture. Does the napkin have a ring in it?
I don't know.
Like you know what I mean? Like a condensation or like a wet ring?
Yep.
Because it just looks like it was folded.
Now
that you're saying cocktail, I'm like, there would be some remnants, or the pen wouldn't write the same way that it would on the dry part. God bless it. I'm going to go find that right now.
A bit of detective work there.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just, I feel like the story is short-circuited. I'm not saying that never in the history of time has someone written on a napkin a message. What I am saying is she doesn't explain why the napkin was the only option, which is writing on a napkin is a last resort. And we never ever find out what the other resorts were for that one. But, you know, the description, this sobbing woman, the woman that hasn't stopped sobbing, not going, are you okay? Or even mouthing, are you okay? Or something like that, just didn't enter into the head in this telling of the story there.
So I will tell you, I'm looking at it right now, and the writing throughout from the front and the back is consistent. There's no like little bleed marks or anything like that that would tell us that there was a wet cocktail on that napkin.
Yeah. Interesting. So she says, would you listen to your gut and write a note from your heart, thinking about the best case scenario if it helps her? The worst case scenario is that she tells you to mind your own business. Again, that option of talking to her doesn't appear to be there, which actually might be quicker. You know, what if he comes back from the bathroom really quickly and you haven't written this note, which took some time to write? How did you know how long he was going to be in the bathroom?
Right.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. What I am saying is we don't get an explanation as to why she didn't just do the quicker, especially if it's danger. You know, if you think someone's in danger, what do you do? The fastest thing? Or do you go, oh, well, I'll get my purse, I'll get the pen out. Oh, napkin. The napkins are notoriously hard to write on. Yeah, interesting. Or would you let your mind get the best of you? The mindset that has become so conditioned to focus on our own problems, not those of a stranger. What would you do if you knew that in passing her a heartfelt note, the woman sitting in the row behind you would be giving a TEDx talk today instead of 6 feet under? I thought this was really revealing, because it feels like projection. Because Laura's writing this, and pretending this comes from Napkin Lady, and I don't mean deceitfully pretending that that's there, but those are so. I completely forgot that scenario yesterday, but the scenario on the train was, do I get involved? Was it dangerous for me to get involved? Do I need to get involved? Is it any of my business to get involved? What didn't go through my mind was, I think I'll just sit here and focus on my own problems. That's not what I did at
No,
all. And
actually, from a woman's perspective, my first thought would be, if I intervene, how much worse does this get for her?
yeah, so the objection was, do you sit there and intervene in what you think is a dangerous thing, or do you just worry about your own problems? That says to me, that's the mindset of someone with a lot of problems on their head,
Yeah.
rather than someone who's going, is it my business? Will I get rejected? Will they? Anyway.
See, none of that for me, none of that would go through my mind. I wouldn't care about getting rejected or, anything like that. It would just be like, and that, I could imagine my husband being like, you don't know what this does for her when we leave the plane. Like, and it's not because I have my own issues. It's because when you're in a situation like this and you understand a situation like this and you have an abusive partner, the abusive partner is always going to take out the punishment on the victim, not on me, because they want to be the best version of themselves. Like, what do you mean? I wasn't yelling at her. I didn't say these things. But then they get off the plane and it gets worse for her.
Yeah.
That would be the thing that I would be thinking about the most. Not like, oh God, I'm going to be, 10 minutes late for this. I can't worry about what she's going through.
And you make a really good point there, because what was the writing there's kind of halfway there of this person's in danger, but the objection was never raised in her head of, if I intervene, will I make more danger? No, that was never brought up. It was, or should I concentrate on my own problems?
Yeah.
She then says, yeah, I know that's a graphic visual, but it's the truth, and that is opinion stated as fact.
Well, not only that, where's the graphic visual? There is nothing graphic. Why? Because you said you were going to be dead. Like
it's the 6 feet under, and yeah, it's not visual, but it's the truth. It's not. That's an opinion stated as a fact. Then we've got some interesting tense use. The crying woman was me. I was the woman sitting in seat 22H, and she's using past tense for past events. That's fine. But she doesn't say, I am the woman who
Right.
was, which would be like, I'm still the person that was in that seat, crying, with the past tense being there, I'm the woman who was sitting in that seat, but I am would be very much in the now. That is me. That is who I am. That is, I'm that person still to this day, but it's just, I was the woman.
But when you go through traumatic experiences, and a lot of times, like, I'll tell stories and I start to get in them and I start to feel those feelings again, and it transports you back to that place. Like,
Yes.
I am sitting here. I am, because you're recalling all of these things that are happening again.
Yeah, I mean, there is. So I always, so when I'm doing the true crime stuff, I'm always pulling apart, and sometimes it's just incredibly, incredibly amazing, where some criminal will be telling a story and they'll be talking in the past tense. I went down the stairs, I opened the door, I'm going across, and then they switch to present tense. I'm going across and see the body. It's in front of me, and it's all in present tense, and then they move back to past tense, and you can go that bit where they're telling the past and present tense, they're lying about that part of it. And the one thing I always say is, when someone tells a past story in the present tense, it does not mean they're lying, because trauma. Because someone telling a traumatic story will feel the same emotions. The chemical buildup inside their body will also be the same as it was when they experienced the trauma, and they will start using present tense to talk about the traumatic event. And we need to be really careful not going, oh, you're talking in the present tense, you must be talking a load of crap because it's something that happened 5 years ago. No, trauma will very much still feel like now, which Laura falls foul of a little bit later on in this.
Well, it's so funny. Me and my husband are so different. He's so calm. And like, I'll be telling him something, and somehow we'll have a situation that came up 3 months ago. And I'm just as passionate about it now that I was then. He's like, why are you so mad about it now? And I'm like, God, it irritates me, you know, but it does. You get those same worked up feelings.
I read a book about a year ago, and I've got a friend who works in human resources. She's not like the sort of procedural part of it. She's about building workplace cultures and so on.
Yeah.
And she recommended this book to me, and it was all about how if you want to be a good leader or anything like that, I guess friend, I guess husband, wife, all goes with this. Sorry, this is an aside from language, but it's just exactly what you were talking about there. We become managers of chemicals, because what you've described there is a chemical thing, because the whatever it is that floats around inside you, you know, the cortisol or the stress hormones or whatever it was, they come back to you. And so you're feeling the same as you were 3 months ago. And the reason for that is not because the memory is so vivid, it's because the chemical reaction that your body is having is the exact same as it was 3 months ago. So you still feel it just as intensely because your chemistry has altered while you're thinking of that.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm medicated, because I can't regulate those chemicals. Good Lord.
Excuse me. So she then she does the note. I'm not going to analyze the note, because that is a whole another 5-hour episode, because there is so much inside the note. It is incredibly revealing. The way I'm about halfway through working through the note, but I've approached it like I would a ransom letter. So it's an anonymous letter.
Yeah.
There's certain processes that you can do, and I do, which will tell you not who the person is by name that wrote the note, but we'll talk about you can work out the character of the person, what's important to them as a person, you know, who they are, and so on. And that way you can, you know, see, you can't get a name from it, but you can get basically a profile of the person that's written this note. So I'm about halfway through that. And it's as interesting to me as the John Benet Ramsey ransom note when I did that, even though it's much shorter.
I'll have to watch your episode on that. I do have to say, if you're not going to go over it, I do have to say it's interesting. I overheard your conversation.
Yes.
Again.
Yes, it's those two words, and you know, I overheard all the explanation was the noise was imposed on Napkin Lady.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that wasn't overhearing a conversation.
Also, I noticed this too when I read this the first time. Never in a dear girlfriend. No, not even dear friend, not even dear. It would be like, hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you right now?
Okay. I would, and I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. I'm going to push back a little bit, because just because I wouldn't start with dear girlfriend doesn't mean that someone wouldn't start with dear girlfriend. So I'm not going to go, oh, I wouldn't do that, so no one else can. However, dear girlfriend followed by, I know the Lord had me overhear your conversation. Those are two very different points of view. Do you know what I mean? You know, that's like, you know, someone being kind of hip and, you know, on your side and so on. You know, like a mate, and then all of a sudden it's like someone who has you know, decided that they want to come to your door to convert you into Christianity or something like that. You know, like there are two very different standpoints.
Yeah, I guess the thing about the dear girlfriend and all the rest of this for me is this man went to the bathroom. How do you have time to write a 6-page dissertation on a napkin to get this woman help? And he's just in there forever.
Yeah, it's think of the person you know best in the entire world. When they go to the bathroom, can you guess how long they're going to be? Do you know?
No, I mean, no, but I can tell you, it's not long enough to write this in an airplane bathroom.
Yeah.
And you're right. Why wouldn't you turn around and be like, how do I help you right now? Period.
Well, do you know what? It's Friday. You've got an audience. I want to be interactive. Someone watching this right now will be going out somewhere where there's a napkin, you know, tonight or tomorrow.
Actually, E. Broccoli just said he's on a plane. What do you guys want me to write to the person in front of me?
Right. Get a napkin, get the words that are on that napkin, and just how long does it take to write it? I mean, it would be, because napkins are not easy things to write on.
Right. All right. Everybody go get a napkin in your house and write the same note.
Right. Yes, right, Rebecca. Mike did say he stayed in the bathroom for a long time due to her behavior, but the person writing didn't know he was going to be there a long time.
Right.
You know, someone, I'm not saying who, but someone might have retrospectively gone, oh, Mike was in the bathroom for a long time, long enough for someone to write a very long note on a napkin.
Right.
But that would be someone making the story up.
But right, and you're right. She doesn't know that. I don't know that by the time I write front and back on this, and then I just wrote it for nothing. How am I going to get it to her?
Even better, right? Everyone in your audience has got to take their better half or their best friend out tonight somewhere. And when that person goes to the bathroom, I want you to start writing the note on a napkin and see how much you've done by the time they come back, and let us know how you get on. That will be brilliant.
By the end of this weekend, my husband's going to be like, why are there 40 napkins with notes on them laying around the house? And I'll be like, it's for research.
Yeah, I'm just writing to Jack. Who's Jack?
Right. Don't worry, he's in England.
Right. Let's carry on. Today, today I want to confess something to you that not even my closest friends knew until now. I just want you to hold on to that line. I very often do this because, I was saying how long these things take me to do. I will do a pass and, look at all the words and make lots of observations. And then I'll do another pass. And the number of times that there's something near the beginning, like this line is, that all of a sudden becomes way more relevant because of something that is said later on is quite interesting. And this, I want to confess to something to you that not even my closest friends knew until now. Hold on to that. Just hold on to that.
This is a good point. I don't want to defend Lo, but a person could have written the note before he went to the bathroom, thinking they may have to slip it to her secretly. So she could have been writing it while they were arguing. I guess that's a good point.
Yep.
We don't know when it was written. And this is my second one. What friends? What friends? Show them. Prove it.
Aye. Here we go again. On that flight, in that conversation. So this is... so let's just say, for the sake of argument, this is a lie, that there was no constant Mike battering Laura and Laura crying incessantly, right? It's really hard to tell a lie because you have to be so consistent with your words all the way through, and we'll leak. And I think that's what conversation is doing. Laura would love that to have been Mike shouting at her so she could tell this story, but it wasn't. So she can say that, but then just instinctively we'll use words like on that flight, in that conversation that Kathy heard. And how many times have we heard it described as a conversation? I firmly believe the conversation happened, not the...
No, in that argument, in that heated discussion, in that verbal assault, like... A conversation doesn't, and I know this is the next part, but a conversation doesn't involve a person being like, hey, kill yourself. Like, that's not a conversation.
Episode, anything like that episode that Kathy heard. But no, it's a conversation.
Right.
My boyfriend suggested, and this is what I hate about this, right? Because this is a very, very serious subject. And if someone does talk about this, I don't want them to think that I'm going to be sitting in judgment of them, every single little word that they use. But look at the weakness in the words. It's not my boyfriend told me to kill myself. It's suggested that I consider. And that is just so weak and woolly and vague in the wording. It is not what is...
I just think this is shit I've used. I've been like, you know what, fucking kill yourself. But I've never been like, hey, you know what I think you should consider? Killing yourself.
Yes.
Like now that I see, hear it as a person.
It's so there's a couple of things here. It could just be really woolly and vague language. It could be that while she wants to think that this was so vile and abusive, that she just doesn't have the language to pull it off and, convincingly depict what happened. I was so broken down, I was willing to listen to the reasons why. This is great. I'm when I was talking about anonymous notes and profiling people, when we're looking at someone's words, we can learn a lot about them by profiling them. And one of the ways we can learn a lot about people is when they order lists. So we've got a list coming up here. He told me how ugly, stupable, and unlovable I was. Now, mostly when we do lists, the first thing we mention is the most important thing to us. The second thing is the next most important thing, and down in descending order of priority. The only time that is a little bit different is around chronology. Like, so the first thing that we'd mention would be the first thing that happened. It's like, I won't ask you to name them, but if you named your kids, I bet you'd say the oldest child first and the next oldest child second.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the oldest child is more important to you. That's
Right.
a chronology thing. So I would say that ugly and looks and so on plays large in Laura's head, because of all the things that so-called happened here, the biggest grievance from reading this, the first one that she thinks to mention, the priority there is being ugly, then stupid, and then unlovable. And I'm not making any judgment on that. We will tie it up with some things that come later. But if I would probably list those three things in a different order. Like, I'd probably go with, unlovable first, because I want to be liked, and I don't really care what people think of my looks, or I have a very good read on my own intelligence, or lack of it when I have it. So unlovable, I might go, told me how unlovable, stupid, and ugly I was, and that would say a lot about me and how I see the world. And I think that says a lot about Laura, about being, it's not a stretch, is it? We all saw the outtakes with the hair flicking and so on. So, looks are very important to her.
Right. I just think about this though, as I would be telling you, right? Like, this all too, when she says ugly, stupid, and unlovable, that's very much how she feels. Whereas if he's telling her, he would say, I don't find you attractive. So if I were telling the story, he told me he wasn't attracted to me. He told me he didn't think I was smart. He told me that he couldn't love me. But instead, it's just these 3 words instead of how he was feeling towards her. There's never any feelings there.
Yeah. And we can build on exactly what you've just said there with the next sentence, which is that no one would ever want to be with me if he didn't. And that he had decided he deserved someone more successful, someone better than me. Everyone listening, think of the people that you're with or like or whatever. Is there anyone you'd say, I'd like them more if they were more successful?
Myself.
Doesn't happen, does it? But yes,
but
that's
no, that's never, no.
Written right here in my notes. Successful was out of place or unexpected here. It's more usually an internal criticism or an internal plaudit than an external one. We knock ourselves down for our lack of success.
But also, I feel like success is a want, right? Like, I want to be more successful. There's never a part that I look at myself and I'm like, well, and I mean, this might be different, but there's never a time I look at myself and I'm like, oh, I don't like myself as much because I'm not successful. It's like, this is what I want. How do I get there?
Yeah. So you were talking about kind of projection earlier.
Yeah.
For me, this is projection, because I guarantee, right, when we finish doing this, whatever I think of you having spent 2 hours in your company, I will not be, she's all right, but she was only more successful than I'd maybe want to spend some more time with her. Like, that, it's an internal thing. It's, like I might, sit down and review, right, how did you do on bacon? Oh, do you know what? Like, I don't think anything I said landed, and the audience were like, oh, sending me crappy comments. And, I just wish I could be more successful when I did this. That is an internal judgment, successful. It does not belong in that list of things that someone supposedly had said to someone else, unless, I guess, there's an argument that if the person saying it knew success was important, so if I knew success was important to you and I was really cruel, I might say to you, you're not successful, you're just kidding yourself, like, to be a real, I might do that to float your pull your levers, I guess. But it just felt, that whole paragraph just felt,
I think you would say, like, my ex-boyfriend said that if I was better, not if I was successful. It's at one point. I just say my husband is the sweetest guy in the world. If he came home today and I said, I wish you were more successful, he might throw me down a flight of stairs. I don't it's something you don't think about, right? Saying to somebody else, I wish you were more successful.
Yeah. Also, just that focus on ugly coming first. We've already had the napkin saying you're a beautiful young woman, and then ugly being on the side of what is wrong with her. That just says to me there's a real focus on looks inside her head. There's also the bit there. No one would want to be with me if he didn't. So that is he's got a decision to make there in her telling. If if I want to be with her, if I don't want to be with her, there's a decision to be made there, and he deserves someone more successful. So that sounds like he's already made the decision to jump off. There is no if. That it should be no one would want to be with me, and he doesn't, or he didn't, and he's off. That. It's again just all these little things inside the words that say this doesn't hang together as a telling.
Well, and also, again, as somebody who's been in this position, it's never um, if I don't want to be with you. Nobody's going to want to be with you if I don't. It's you're nothing without me. You'll
Yes,
be nothing. You'll stay nothing. Nobody's ever going to want you. You're never going to find love. It's not if I don't want to be with you. It's like,
yes,
no.
yeah. He told me that if I was no longer on earth, he hoped that I would look down on him and smile when he met his soulmate, that I would be happy in heaven on their wedding day. Sorry, I can't see the chat, but was Mike with Danielle when this was written? Does anyone know? Because this feels like projection of jealousy.
You
Was
can't
this
see the
written
chat?
when? So if I could see the chat, I would just be talking to every single person in the chat rather than focusing on you and the
Oh,
words in front
okay.
of me. So,
I don't know
um,
when this was written. But also too, let me tell you, I am a Gemini and I am cruel to people I don't like. I have said some of the most heinous shit in the world. Never once would I be like, I mean, it just ends at kill yourself. I would never be like, maybe one day after you kill yourself, you'll then look down upon me and hope I'm doing well. Like,
yeah, it struck me, and I feel this whole thing is potentially a projection, and that there is actually, and it felt to me maybe just a sort of guess that was this written at a time when Mike was with
oh, they
Danielle,
said
and
yes.
right, it feels like jealousy. It feels like real, yeah, he's with someone, and it's not me, and and that, and I've been there when I was younger. Hopefully, I never go through it again.
Yeah,
When
because
you've
the
been
TED
with
Talk wasn't until 2021.
right,
Okay.
when you've been with someone, and then they're with someone else, and you're like, oh crap, they're going to think I was even worse now because they'll be with someone who's really nice, and like someone who's actually knows how to treat someone properly, and they're just going to think I'm terrible, and so on. That's what that felt like.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, that whole section there about the criticism that Mike aimed at Laura, all of it felt like projection to me. None of it felt like it was, an accurate retelling of what happened.
Hmm. Interesting.
Right. This was by no means the only emotional abuse I suffered, and it had gone on for months. Many abusers start with psychological abuse, where then it turns physical. My relationship was no different, and there's no expansion here. There's again, what other emotional abuse had you suffered? Like, could you give us a list of 2 or 3 moments where there was emotional abuse? Cruelty, because I know verbal abuse is emotional abuse because it gets an emotional reaction there. But like, were there other things that happened? Was there anything else other than the verbal abuse? There's no expansion. There is just nothing. Which, when you look at what this story is supposed to do, it's supposed to make us feel sorry. That could have come up there. Interesting little pronouns. My relationship was no different. There's no our relationship was no different. It's very much the one that she is owning as being her relationship there.
Well, again, too, when you explained her talking about pregnancy, you talked about process. This is the process of how abusers abuse. They start with psychological abuse, then like it's not how she experienced, it's just what she knows in terms of abusive relationships.
Yeah, and if all of this happened, and all of this has happened to people, there is nothing there to say like I felt like a piece of shit. I felt that big.
Yeah.
I felt like the lowest person on earth. There's no emotion brought into the telling of this at all. Now, this is interesting. This is one of the things that's changed from draft one to draft two, which was almost like she read my notes. The first thing that he did once we landed in Iceland was ask me to pick a number. Not knowing why he asked, I picked 40. He said that was how many times he was going to slap me. He did, and then he choked me. And I just wrote down two things. The first thing we did when we landed, was it touchdown on the runway, pick a number from 1 to 40, 40, slap, slap, slap on the plane? No, that's not true. So there's those holes in the story. In the published version, this happens in the hotel room because that's a lot more likely as to where that scenario could happen. But we've got a big jump in time here because in her telling, she was being emotionally, verbally abused on the plane. And then somehow they've changed the scenario to the point where he's playing number games. So there was no gear change. There's no, talking about, and it could be anything. It could be like he had a couple of drinks and chilled out. It could be that she decided that she was going to grin and bear it or anything like that. But she doesn't say how we went from really harsh, kill yourself, emotional abuse to pick a number from 1 to 40. Because if there's no gear change, no, I'm not going to pick a number from 1 to 40, go away. But no, she doesn't bring that level of realism in again.
Well, and also too, again, this is not the way I would, or I can imagine anybody that I've spoken to would explain this. He did, and then he choked me. No. He slapped. And you're just recalling over and over and over, and you can feel their hands again. You can feel the rage, the sweat. There are smells, there are colors, there are sounds. There are so many things in these types of stories that you remember. It's never he did and then he choked me. It's never that. It's just there are so many things that you can feel again. It's never this quick to tell these types of stories.
Yes, it feels very much like, and Amber Heard was very much like this as well when she was testifying, where it feels much more like a set of stage directions for a script, so you imagine that could be in a script, slap 40 times, then start choking. But then when it becomes, a bit of a movie, there's a lot more of the emotion in there, and a lot more, noise and sound and light and so on. Whereas the script might just have those, very basic points put there. Amber Heard was very much the same of, like, I was here, then I moved there, then he hit me, so I moved there. Right. It was just a script, stage directions rather than a traumatic story.
But there's only really a middle, right? There's no start, there's no how this got started, and there's no ending. He left me on the bed. I was crying. I was gasping for air because what was I going to do? Where was I going to go? How was I going to escape this thing? Like there's no thought process of even when it's over. And that's the thing is like abuse is not just that moment. It's not just the choke or the slap. It's everything that surrounds it because it's all of the buildup and then all of the letdown.
Have you been reading my notes? Because it's
I've been abused. It's fine.
Oh God. That's the very next thing I'm going to say.
I'm a real method actor, Jack.
The next line is he left me at dinner, and I've said, how did you go from 40 slaps and choking to going for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that can't happen, but there is a part in between, like a thawing of relationships or the abuse victim thinking, for a quiet life, I am going to have to go for dinner here, and put on a smile and sit and eat dinner.
Right.
But we don't have that join bit there. The other thing here, so this is
I had to wash my face. I was crying. I was whatever. I had to fix my hair. There were so many things that would have had to happen between that and dinner.
Exactly.
Right.
And mentally as well, and it would have to be a mindset change. And very probably not a thawing of relationships between the two people, but in this scenario, the woman deciding that the safest thing to do is play along, is to go for dinner, not
Mhm.
to refuse to go for dinner. But there will have been a conversation in her head about, should I go, or I just want to bloody stay here, or I want to run for my life. But the safest thing for me right now in a foreign country is to go out for dinner. None of that gets described.
Right.
And then when I say, when you make up a story, it's really hard. If this next paragraph, she gets left twice. He left me at dinner to take footage for his Instagram. He told me he didn't care what happened to me and left me alone in the street. Well, unless you're having dinner in the street, which you weren't because it was very cold, you've just made up two stories about were you left at dinner or were you
My
left alone in
mother-in-law
the
just
street?
said the same thing. Why are they eating dinner in the street?
And yeah, it's that. So it's when a hallmark of deceptive stories is either the same action being repeated twice. Like someone will say, I walked through the door, looked around, didn't see anyone, so walked through the door and entered the room, and it's that, or
Yeah.
it can be things like that where it's two very different and contradictory actions are said there. The fireworks went off at midnight and people around me celebrated in the snow. I could feel their excitement about the idea of a new year, new hopes, new dreams, new goals. Just awful writing. And then there was me, looking worse than ever for crying for the better part of 24 hours. Well, were you? It's that jump in time thing again.
Well, and
Because if she
also
was,
the why. Where's the why? You were crying.
yeah,
Why?
yeah, crying for the better
Because you
part
had
of,
been salted, because you had been, why?
So just, from the pick a number through to dinner, was she crying all the time then? I don't think so. Do like something, what? So yeah, it's just, it doesn't work for me. And also, what does she say? Looking worse for wear. Looking worse than ever after crying. Focus on looks again. She
Yeah.
was, focus on looks.
Yeah, not focus on survival. And you're in another country with a man who just allegedly took you within inches of your life.
Yeah.
You're alone.
I decided to give myself an hour to figure out what to do next. The last thing I wanted to do was die, but he had convinced me that there wasn't a place for me on earth. Up until Kathy slipped me that note, it hadn't crossed my mind I was being abused. And someone got in touch with me this week to say, will you please talk about how Laura and Jan talk in passive voice? And I was being abused is one of those. It's not he was abusing me. It is I was being abused. So she's in there as the abuse person, but she isn't actually saying who did the abusing at that point. It's not my boyfriend was abusing me, which again would be more in the moment, more visceral of who was doing what to whom. It's more, again, it's almost like process. I was being abused, so I can put this banner on, like to say I'm an abused person.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and this amazed me, this is the first time, because Laura started talking, then it's I was the woman in the seat. It's the first time she's actually mentioned the note at all. She hasn't mentioned getting the note from her point of view. She does not mention receiving the note at all.
Right, how that would make you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Does not mention reading the note, any reaction to the note at all. It was the note all of a sudden appears like it's, oh shit, I better remember to mention the note. And also, I've asked you to keep hold of a couple of lines now. Up until Kathy slipped me that note, it hadn't crossed my mind I was being abused. So up until Kathy, when Kathy slipped that note, she realized she was being abused, or it crossed her mind that she was being abused at that point. Yeah. So on the plane, basically, she realized she was being abused. Fair enough, but I just want you to remember that.
Right, but why wouldn't you mention that when she slipped you the note? Because, okay, this woman slips me a note and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is what's happening.
Yeah. There was part of me that was curious to see the note again. And that's interesting. Not read the note again. She's never talked about the words inside the note and their effect on her. It was seeing the note. It's like, you're seeing my script there for something, but you're not reading it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was seeing, not reading. Again, this gives that real sense to me of what were the impact of the words in the note, because you don't say, you just see it.
Right.
Do you remember, not 2 paragraphs ago, she said that she was outside, freezing cold, didn't know where she was completely lost. but she realized life was crap and she had to decide what to do.
Mhm.
That's a pretty big moment in your life, yeah. That's like big time. Like being lost in a foreign city is freaking scary at the best of times. When you're down on your luck, like she was describing, and being abused and being left at dinner by your so-called abusive boyfriend, that's a lot. But then she said, "Oh, I had nothing better to do, so I looked into my backpack." It's like, well, wait a minute. A moment ago, you told us you had something really crucial to do, which was like get home, get warm, decide what you're going to do in your relationship. But all of a sudden, it's, oh, I had nothing better to do, so I looked in my backpack for the note.
I'm tired,
Yeah.
Jack.
Then we have, maybe Kathy was supposed to overhear our conversations again. Overhear our conversations, not hear
Right.
us fighting, not witness how bad it was. Maybe there was something to it. I stumbled back to the hotel with the tiniest glimpse of hope. I don't credit it to myself for any self-esteem that I had. That was long gone. But a stranger had taken the time to share her observations with me, and I owed it to her to think about them. And once again, there's a sense of indebtedness there, but she doesn't expand on how the contents of the note made her feel, think, react. The focus is actually on getting the note, the fact that someone gave her the note, not
Well,
what was in it.
also the thing that's interesting to me in here is how fast she goes from nearly losing her life to a glimpse of hope. These things are not, they don't happen the next day. You are in this for a long time, especially if you're still in the same place, same hotel, same vicinity as your abuser. There are no glimpses of hope.
Then this is a horrible thing, right? At New Year's Eve, the violence got worse, not better. Violence can't get better. Violence is violence.
It's a criminal crime.
I could understand if there was a conversation. I'm sorry, babe, I won't hit you again. And then things will get better if he doesn't hit again. But violence can't get better. Violence doesn't get better. It's like, oh, he only slapped me 20 times, so the violence got better. No, that's not how it works. That's not how we describe
This is another
violence.
great point, though. Being hit 40 times, even with an open hand, how does she have no marks on her? Nobody would have called from the hotel.
He attempted to suffocate me. I remember it like it was yesterday. And this, I think there's two ways of experiencing abuse. Like you said, you feel it not like it was yesterday, but like it's happening now.
Right.
Or very potentially, there's also this slight out of bodiness, so it's still happening now. You're just seeing it rather than taking part in it. Does that make sense? Like that out of bodiness thing?
Yeah.
But like yesterday, no. True abuse, you feel it like it's happening now when you remember it. Exactly where I was when I felt almost all of my spirit, of my soul, of my fight dissipate. The feeling of his hand on top of a pillow, on top of my face, pressing all his weight, more than twice mine, into me in an effort to silence me. And this is where, again, I've got to apologize because I'm not pulling apart abuse victim stories, but
I'm about to, and I'll tell you why.
okay, was he trying to suffocate her or silence her? They're two very different things. The action might be the same, but again, there's that congruence is not there.
Well, that's the other thing. When you're experiencing things, you are not experiencing what he's doing. You are experiencing the fact that you cannot breathe,
That's
that
a
nobody
brilliant
can
point.
hear you, that you have the weight of, and Michael Maricini is a large man and she is a small woman. You can feel that weight on you. She's explaining what he's doing. This is not experience from how she's receiving it. God, this pisses me off, Jack. Ah!
I hoped I would wake up and felt that if I did, I was supposed to keep living, start fighting. Wake up from what?
Not only that, you wake up, you're fucking confused. What the hell just happened to me? Where am I? Why am I in Reykjavik, Iceland? God damn it.
Did she pass out? If she did, she doesn't say. And it's that sort of, the story hasn't been completed. The circle is not complete. She's putting in little arcs, but she's not tying the whole thing together.
Yeah.
Sure enough, my eyes opened. I slowly regained emotional strength and finally was able to see my situation for what it was: abuse. I finally was able to see my situation with him for what it was, abuse. Do you remember that line I told you to remember from earlier? She realized on the plane when she was handed the note she was being abused. So which one was it? Did she realize she was being abused when she was handed this note it was abuse when she was handed this note on the plane? Or was it when she woke up after being suffocated? They both can't be true. They contradict each other.
Let me tell you, the situation that I was in, I was 23 years old. I am now 41. I can see it with a different mindset. I can see it with a different brain. For her to say, I slowly regained emotional strength, no, you fucking didn't. Because it didn't, it took years for me to gain that strength, for me to gain that voice, for me to stop panicking about these things. You just woke up. This man just choked you out, and you just woke up and you're like, I am healed. Tony Robbins, let's go. Like, none of this happens as fast.
It's not. And it's the fact that and quite often when we look at stories and we see contradictions, I think our nice natures kind of go, oh yeah, I know what they meant, or something like that. But here she's lying. She's one of these things has got to be a lie. She either realized that the point she realized she was being abused was on the plane, which she says at one point, or the point she realized she was being abused was when she woke up after suffocation. They both can't be true. They just cannot be true. I was greeted by another stranger on the phone who owed me nothing but helped me regain my faith in humanity simply by telling me that she believed my story and that I was going to be okay. I really do know that for abuse victims, sometimes one of the biggest things that can happen to you is someone believing you and not going, you're over dramatizing things, or you're always so emotional and so on. I know that part of it is really, can be someone's experience, but in everything Laura does, being believed shines through all the time. Even if have you listened to the latest Love Trapped?
I listened to both of them. Yes, right. I was very pissed off this morning.
There is supposedly something from Jan. It's supposed to be supportive of Laura, but actually what it says all the time is we believe her, we believe her, we believe her.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just Laura's biggest theme is wanting to be believed. It's very, very important to her. Now, why would that be?
Well, and you're gonna convince me that a woman who texted Michael Maricini, my daddy is gonna be so upset because Mike yelled at her. She called a domestic violence hotline and not her mother.
Do we get to that? We might get to that. The DV organization helped me obtain legal help so that I could get a restraining order against my ex-boyfriend, which I still have today, which is like a badge of honor for her. Like I've still got this restraining order. Guess who wrote me one of the statements? Kathy. She left her email address and phone number for me at the bottom of the note she wrote me. I was really interested here that no criminal charges got mentioned at all. I understand how hard it is to bring criminal charges around abuse, but this was all about a restraining order, which is almost like her proof. Does that make sense? Like, this is talking about Kathy. She was stunned. I contacted her. She left her email and phone number. I know she didn't put her phone number in it, but let's just believe the story that we're being told. And she was stunned.
Right.
Not grateful, happy, surprised,
also,
maybe.
Again, you reached out to a woman you don't know on a plane. You have not called your mother. These are the two people that you called first.
She was shocked I'd taken her words to heart, but we've never had in all of this any explanation of how she had taken the words to heart. Do you know why? Because when I say, do you know why? This is my opinion stated as fact, and that's the wrong thing to do. The way this story is set up, Kathy is the hero of this story. Yeah, so just if we took all of this as real and actually happened, Kathy would be the hero of the story, the one that made the pivotal intervention that changed the lives of the two leading characters in the story. I don't think Laura can not be the hero of her own story, and she has to put herself in there. She was shocked I'd taken her words to heart. She said it felt like a higher power, and Laura just doesn't expand on this bloody amazing napkin that changed her life. She doesn't say how it changed her outlook. Um, she doesn't expand and say why, what a turning point it was. You know, like from the moment
Right.
I had that napkin, I did this,
Right.
or anything like that.
Which word was it? Which sentence was it? What was it about that
Yeah,
gave you strength in that moment? Right.
it's like in her telling, she wants the note to be like a catalyst, but Laura wants to be the one who made the difference. So you know, like
Right.
the note made me braver or made me do things, you know, that made me better. The note was like the catalyst, not the big thing. It was my actions that were the big thing.
Right.
She says, I look back now and wonder what life would have been looked like for my Oh, this is a classic Laura passage. Here we go. I look back now and wonder what life would have been looked like for my family and friends if he had succeeded in taking mine. Nothing would have been better for them, as he convinced me it would be. My sister's wedding would have been coloured by my absence, not improved by it. Instead of that day being about her and her husband coming together, about their love, it would have been as much a staunch reminder of what was missing. Instead, not and, you know, you know, the day could have been about her, but also this would have been happening. But it's kind of like I wouldn't have been there, and their day just would have been a hell of a lot worse. Not, you know, they might have got through it, and I hope they would. It's just I'm the center of this story.
So I have two things that I want to touch on. Number one, she says, I agreed. Okay, I'm going to do this. Never is it, I'm horrified of what this looks like. I'm horrified of what he does if I start to stand up for myself. I don't know where to go or how to start or where. It's just, I agreed. Okay. And number two, we read this about if she wrote a Medium article about how if she had taken her own life, and it was about how her nephews would miss out on her, how all these people would miss out on her. And I have two kids, and I think about if something happens, what am I not going to see? I'm not going to be able to see them growing up, them going through their things. It's never about, oh, they're going to miss me because I'm so great and I'm their mom, you know?
And just look at it. Look at it. She says, you know, nothing would have been better for them. Then she mentions sister's wedding would have been a bit crappy if she hadn't been there. And then she goes on to talk about how happy she is that she saw her dad. And it's all about her again. You know, like it's all, you know, I think about seeing my father actually run in the pool with his first lesson after seeing his movement being affected by 21 years of Parkinson's disease. And she's not happy for him. She's happy that she got to see it. And it's just so you know, like I can't talk about other people for too long. I've got to be at the center of this story. I think about the podcast that my mom and I started. We're entrepreneurs and inspirational people. Talk about the moments that changed everything, moments of gross discomfort, change that led to happy, successful times that they never thought were possible. Laura made all this amazing stuff happen. And it's like, oh, God.
The world is a better place because of her, Jack.
Even if Kathy hadn't handed me the note and I eventually developed the courage to leave, it might have been too late. So, wait a minute. Is this note the pivotal thing that saved her life? Because remember, without that note, she'd be 6 foot under. That's what she told us at the very start. And now she's saying to us, oh, if Kathy hadn't told me that, I might have developed the courage to leave anyway.
Well, and also, there's no eventually. This all happens in 24 hours.
Wow.
He almost killed you, and then you're like, I have the courage to leave. Look at me.
She wants to say, if Kathy hadn't passed the note, I would be dead. Because that's the dramatic thing that makes this TED Talk stand out. But she can't quite bring herself to say it. She has to word it in a way that actually, if Kathy hadn't handed me the note, I might have been able to do something about it myself. And you'll notice that she talks here. So what does she say? It might have been too late. One more time might have been too late. Does she say, yes, I might have eventually developed the courage to leave. She doesn't have that leaving in this story as well. She doesn't say how the splits happened. So we've had a big jump in time where all of a sudden her and Mike are not together, you know, and
right. I was able to finally escape.
Yes.
I was able to get out of this abusive situation.
Yeah, that moment is entirely missing from there. She's detailed all this resolve and everything like that, but the actual, you know, moment of leaving, which is a bloody dangerous moment for a woman. Is it not one of the most dangerous times in a woman's life? If the moment she leaves an abusive relationship.
Well, and that was the thing. Mine came after we were dating. It was not while we were dating. It was after I had broken up with him.
Oh God, that sounds even.
And that was the worst time, because it was then that I had started to stand up for myself and I started to push back, and he did not like that.
Yeah. So it's just, it's like she knows the words to say but can't quite say them right. She carries on. At some point in our lives, we've all been in a situation where eavesdropping, interrupting and intervening could have changed the trajectory. So we've got eavesdropping again, overhearing a conversation. That's the most consistent way what happened on the plane is described. Something that's eavesdropped on. It's a conversation. It wasn't big and loud and unavoidable. It was a conversation. Then we just get to the boring bit. How easy is it to turn our heads away when we see someone in public in distress? How easy is it to put our headphones in and keep watching the in-flight movie, or bury ourselves in our smartphones, wasting our time airbrushing our appearance to get more meaningless likes?
Bitch, we've just found you FaceTiming on your own domestic violence. God, Jack, I hate this.
I'll I'll say one thing. I'll say one thing. There's a repetition of headphones in this. What we repeat are very important to us. Headphones is very important in this story. For some reason, she talked about when she was writing from the point of view of Kathy, so you could have put on your noise cancelling headphones. She mentions headphones again at some point.
She also, it's just all about looks all the time. We get it. You have nothing else to offer. Fake Laura Owens says this story is clearly written because I'm so strong and powered through it all.
Yes, you are. Now, this is, I know there's a lot of controversial stuff in here, but this is my favorite line. My favorite line in the whole TED Talk. This is, I think, something that she thinks is really, really smart. Today, it's easier than ever to be the main character of our own story. We are always the main character of our own story. I can't make someone else the main character of my story.
Sorry, I'm now the main character of your story, Jack.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Please tell me how that works, because apparently it's easier than ever for me to be the main character of my story.
Your life is about me now, so.
Again, I know what she wants to say. I know, she wants to use like a really cool, buzzy phrase like main character energy and all that sort of stuff. But no. We're all the main character of our own story. It's not a hard thing to be. Good, bad, and different, no matter what character you are the main character of your own story. We can move through the world immersed by our technology, and we've got this starting theme. Again, it's like buzzy. Like it's social media is bad because he was going to take Instagram pictures, and we do things with clicks and likes, and we get immersed in our technology, which she uses a lot of. Seeing the rest of humanity is just a backdrop for our own story. So we've got that cliche thing there, but again, we've got this again, it just doesn't hang over, because she talks about us moving through the world immersed in technology, but she's actually described a lovely human moment about her dad in the pool, and she doesn't ever join these things up at all and kind of go,
why is Ron still in the pool? I don't know. Does he need help? What are we doing?
He's in a black chair in the pool.
Ron never gets out of the pool. He's just in the pool.
Now, remember that other line I told you to keep track of? I was overwhelmed by the response as one woman wrote, pure love for a stranger, and another woman wrote, angels are everywhere. We just need to be listening when they talk to us. Right. Where do these comments come from? She doesn't say. She doesn't say the response to what?
And another woman wrote, angels are, that's not in the napkin note.
And it's, so these, I was overwhelmed by the response. The response to what? She doesn't say. And then she says, as one woman wrote, pure love for a stranger. Now, technically, it's not one woman wrote to me or one woman commented under my post or whatever it is. She could have just gone on Instagram, found someone random's post and said, oh, a woman's written this. I'll put this in my TED Talk. That's absolutely fine. But if this is in response to her sharing her story, you've got to remember that at the very beginning, she said she hadn't shared this story with even her closest friends until now. So have you shared your story? Have you not shared your story, Laura? You're contradicting yourself again.
Right.
A single note of kindness from a stranger superseded the truly countless acts of violence and menacing words spewed at me by a man I thought I loved.
I thought loved me. Right? Like, I thought he loved me. I thought this was love. I thought, like, But whatever. I don't care
Yeah,
anymore.
but also, yeah, also, like, how you haven't told us how.
Right.
Uh, how. There's a great story in there. There's a really, really good story about how this napkin then caused an even bigger flood of love towards her, for everyone going, yeah, I love your story. That's brilliant. You keep going. And that just helped me and helped me and helped me and helped me. That would be a brilliant story, but she doesn't have it, so she can't say it. I think about that every day. I think of how quick we are to lose our temper in traffic, to walk past the man on the street in obvious crisis, to ignore the trouble brewing down the sidewalk. A lot of it is probably self-preservation. We figure we aren't looking for trouble and we don't want to invite it. But each time that we see the people around us as members of humanity and not as strangers, we take a step towards restoring hope for others. We become links in a chain of kindness.
Bring me back to Ron in the pool. I just want to float. What are we doing here?
What she's doing, and this again, right? This is a beautiful story. If she could then say some examples of how she's been inspired by the napkin note to actually not walk past the man in the street, to actually not get angry in traffic, but to wave and put a thumbs up or something like that to the person that you would be really annoyed at. But she doesn't have any examples. How have you done this, Laura? How have you been a link in the chain of kindness? Or is this just simply a theory that you're putting out there?
Right. What has she done? But she also talks about countless acts of violence and then also never names any one of them.
She has given more examples of how people are there for her. So well done, Kathy, for the note. Well done, the DV phone person, for believing my story. The people commenting online. People are there for me, and that's amazing. How she stepped up. How has she learned her lesson from this? You know, what link in the chain of kindness is she performing here? It could be volunteering at the domestic violence helpline or anything like that would be building on the point that she wants to raise. But instead, we just get this kind of cliche about we should all be more kind to each other.
Sure.
Which is great and true, but it's as great as me coming on and going, hey guys, be kind to everyone this weekend. And then just going and being a bit of a shit over the weekend. Think about it. The single act of courage from Kathy was more powerful than countless acts of violence by a man I thought I loved. Have we done that part already?
Mm-hmm.
Or has she repeated herself?
No,
Maybe.
yeah. And then I think all the time about the randomness of it all.
Yes. And once more, anyone could have been in that seat in front of me. If she had taken a different flight, my life would look very different now. And I think this is similar to what you were saying earlier, although you said it a hell of a lot better. The focus is on the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Mike, not the victim herself. There. If you ever find yourself sitting in a chair like her, a black chair, or just, I hope that you will find the same courage she did, even if it's uncomfortable. I hope I have the same courage too. It might just save a life, change a life, or begin anew. You might feel like you're crazy. It might be a way out of your comfort zone, but maybe, just maybe, you'll be the person, the light at the end of that tunnel. Maybe you'll end up being the stranger they never knew they needed. Once again, focusing on the actor, the hero here. The victim is like kind of afterthought. Do you know what I mean?
I have to tell you, this is the quickest domestic violence to trauma recovery I've ever seen in my life.
And then we have thank you very much to end it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for that.
You.
I mean, this is got all the hallmarks in the writing of something that didn't happen.
Right.
It's not the way it was said. It's that thing of me talking earlier and saying, I can talk to you about how the heat has affected me this week. I couldn't talk to you a made up story about how the cold has affected me this week because my words would be all wrong. I would miss things out or I would restate things and that's exactly what this feels like.
Do you want to go over the transcript for the final version?
Not in any great detail. That was
okay.
enough
No.
for me.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Good.
Because I have this. So I made this up. Where is it? It is just so we can give everybody an overview because I think everybody has seen it. But this is what we just read versus the actual recorded version and what was changed, what was left out. So it says that the narrative point of view is pretty much Laura from the start of this one. But the recorded version is she tries to hide herself, and you're Kathy, right? You're experiencing it from Kathy's. There's a luggage scene that's not in the
Hmm.
script. There is abuser's dialogue, which is beefed up. It's barely summarized in the first one. The note is destroyed, not even mentioned in the first one. Seizures are not even mentioned in the first one. Stalking is not mentioned. Instagram or hospital things not mentioned. And then she beefs up her sister's wedding. She beefs up the thing about podcast interviews. And then the I hope I have the same courage too is removed from that. But the biggest thing that stuck out to me was these would be the most pertinent details of that story.
Yeah, it's so when I looked at it, I think the other thing I mentioned it when we were there was the 40, pick a number 1 to 40, happened in the hotel in the
Mhm.
recorded version and doesn't have location, although it was as soon as we landed in the original version. And a lot in the recorded version feels like some of the criticisms that I've said there, like we don't hear this, we don't hear that, have been added in to make it that little bit more dramatic, have a little bit more action in it. And it's as if someone has gone, this is falling apart. It's not congruent. It doesn't sort of work as it just doesn't get me like that because you're not talking from that part there.
Yeah, I don't understand how you take something as large as seizures or stalking or hospitals that you have proof of, and that's not in your original script.
Yes, it's if it was, if that first draft was, instinctive and just had absolutely everything in it, actually the second version might be toned down a little bit. Like I don't need that much in there or something like that. But no, it's all beefed up. It's all,
Right.
the consequences of the alleged abuse are much, much, much higher. My other favorite one in the recorded version is when she says that Mike said that she couldn't go with him while he was doing his Instagram shots because he wanted to be insta famous and thought that a girl would be, like drive other women off.
Mhm.
How does that work? Because we can all just, right, I'm just going to take pictures of myself, not you. Like, it's not an impediment to being like insta famous. It's absolutely the logic in it. It's hard to do the logic when you haven't experienced it. It's just terrible.
Well, and a lot of times too, with these stories, when you experience it, a lot of it isn't about logic, though. It's about emotion. And that's the one thing that she never, ever talks about is emotion from any point of view, from start to middle to finish, how she feels now as a person, how she's changed, just emotionally, it's just lacking.
Yeah, there is. I didn't do it that much on this because for me, this is very much like looking like a work of fiction. But one of the biggest things you can learn, I talked about doing passes. I will do a pass towards the very end and go, "What's missing? What would I expect to hear here?" Like in a story or something. And emotion would be the big one for me that is missing in that especially, but most of the things that she does. I mean, I've been sitting with you for the past couple of weeks listening to those texts to Mike, and it's like it's process. Will you come with me to Tony Robbins? Not. I'd love it if we could go. Or there's just the emotion is not there in her language.
Well, and we've talked about this too. Like everything with her is, especially when it comes to relationships, in my opinion, is transactional. Your love is transactional. If you work with me, or if you love me, you will have this job. If you do this, we will do this. There's never any like give or take or being in a relationship. It's everything serves a purpose for one other thing.
Yeah, yeah. There was no, the mic text you were reading. There was very little. Mind you, I did take the absolute piss out of it when she said it. There's very little transactional, like here, I'll just get my text up. So what was the last thing? Right. There's a couple of ones about niche sports, but the last thing my partner sent me was, I need cold air. Right? Just like, because it's really warm. But there was none of that in her messages to
No,
Mike. Do you know what I mean? None of that chit chat and
no.
whatever.
I don't know if you were on the one stream where I was talking about the things that I text my husband, and it was like, "Hey, love you so much. Maybe we should skip buying raspberries." Like you talk about these tiny things that just don't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the last thing we talked about was maybe my son is scared of heights, so we might not take him to water slide parks. Like there's never, everything is always a crisis.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you looked at this, but I want to bring this up and show you.
I'm excited by this.
Let me see here. Here we go. It is another version of this story.
Oh, yes. I've never seen this. So this is from the
Right.
book.
Which is the life-saving power of kindness of strangers. One day you will tell your story of how she mentions this again. But this is yet another version. So I don't know if you want to go through this now or on your own, but I do have another one of those graphics that kind of shows again that she has things that are changed, things that are added to it. There's just, it's another version of this story. And I understand, right? Like leaving details out. I understand variations of a story when you tell it, or if you tell it to other people, or maybe you're like, oh shit, I totally forgot this detail. But you're never going to forget the biggest details. You're going to forget the smallest details. Or like, oh my God, I forgot he said this to me. And then I said blah, 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 blah. Never, oh, I had 3 seizures or whatever. Like those are the biggest parts of the story.
Aye. Oh, that was an interesting one. Those sorry, this is a complete tangent. Those outtakes, the outtakes from the recording where she said,
Yes.
I need to remember he gave me, sorry, she didn't say that. She said, I need to remember he's responsible for epilepsy.
Right.
Was that outtake on the last day because epilepsy wasn't brought into the script that we looked at all?
I don't know, but how do you forget what gave you epilepsy?
I'm going to very politely correct you there. She doesn't say he gave me epilepsy in that outtake. She says responsible for epilepsy. The concept of epilepsy, not my epilepsy. It actually, if you look at her words, she's saying that Mike caused the entire affliction of epilepsy. And if you're epileptic or someone who, Mike is to blame in Laura's words there.
Damn
it's
it,
all
Mike.
Mike's fault. But what she doesn't do is own the epilepsy. She doesn't say, I need to remember this guy gave me epilepsy or caused my epilepsy and summon that. She just says, and again, it's like the process. Mike caused epilepsy. Right.
You want to know what's so funny about that is somebody in my chat had said this to me and it has just stayed with me. When she accuses these men of sexual assault and she accuses these men of domestic violence, that is for people who have truly been through those experiences, that is not something that you carry as a badge of honor. But she wants to say, right, with Clayton, well, it could be considered rape because she doesn't want to hold the responsibility of what it is like to be a rape victim.
Is it also, and I'm going to word things very carefully here, but is there also, do you think, in her head, some sort of, she wants to always appear to be the strongest person in the room? So therefore, saying you're a victim is at odds with that. Do you know what I mean? Like she wants to be the queen that sails through life.
No, because I don't think she can truly be a hero without being a victim. So she needs to have that victimhood in order to be able to, propel herself upward. I think 2 things. You'll never find a woman who's been sexually assaulted say that, well, it could be no, it was rape. Like it's that. And the other thing is too, is I don't know if she's trying to protect herself because she knows it's not true. Like,
Yeah, I think again, we've used this a lot there. It could be considered rape is process.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it could be, by the letter of the law, like, yes, this is what could be there. It's it's process is not what we've experienced. You know, I went for a walk this morning. I don't say it could have been considered a walk. Do you know? Like,
Right. Right.
no.
It could have been considered exercise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, 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 no. I mean, I would use that if instead of doing my normal like 2 mile morning walk, I went to the top of the road and back because the weather was so bad, or I forgot something, like, and I go, oh, it could be considered exercise, but that's a very different thing. I'm not saying I wasn't walking. Her wording is
Yeah.
processed every single time.
It bothers me, especially, for and that's the basis of this group of people, right? Justice for Clayton and this group of people, a lot of it is women who have had real life experiences. And when they go through, and even men, when you experience something traumatic, you don't try to pussyfoot around what it was. You don't try to like gentle it down. I don't know why she would do that.
No, I have had a really bad ovarian cancer experience in my family last year.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's fine. But the it certainly was not something that needed an ice pack on the stomach and to make it all better. Thank you very much. And hate, I hate it was, I was exceedingly just it dominated my thoughts for like
Yeah.
the maybe the month that this was all going on. And the person that was doing it is a very stubborn person. So, like I was just like, oh, please do something about this. Don't be your stubborn self. I just think about it there. I was sitting telling you about my emotions and not, oh yeah, I've got ovarian cancer. Yes, and like Laura details the types of cancer and the doctor's diagnosis, descriptions of the cancer. I've just sat there and gone, shitty ovarian cancer with really serious consequences that worried the shit out of me for about 6 weeks. That's
Yeah.
what reality sounds like.
Yeah.
And I realize I'm holding back the person that was because it's not my story to tell.
No, sure, sure,
the
sure.
whole ins and outs of it. But I hopefully can just the reason I told that was not to tell that the ovarian cancer part of the story, but it makes me mad that she takes these really traumatic things like abuse, like rape, like ovarian cancer,
Yeah.
and capitalizes on them.
Well, and the other thing is too, you telling your story right now as a man who doesn't have ovaries, I would expect not, but
No, ovary free.
but I mean, who wouldn't experience something like that? You're not experiencing it firsthand, but you can still see how it affects you personally, even though it's
Yes.
not your body and it's not your health experience, but how it affects you. She doesn't have that either.
Yeah, it's like my mom, gosh, it's nearly 20 years ago now, had a brain tumor. And it was a huge brain tumor. And they said to her, you've got two choices. You can have the operation to remove the brain tumor, but we've got to tell you, it's so big, you might die in surgery. Or you can not have surgery. And the thing is that this brain tumor, it might not grow anymore, and you might live for many, many, many years just with a tumor there. But actually, without any warning, one day you'll just die because this presses on a nerve there. I was like, great choice. Well done.
Right.
So she had the operation. She had the tumor removed. She's still alive today.
Yay.
And the tumor was benign. So there was no worry about, like cancer coming back and so on. And that, I credit that with shaping so much of my life because I realized how precious life was,
Yeah.
how she had a choice, do this and you might die, or do this and you might die. And if you're very lucky, one of the choices, you might still be alive at the end of it. And she took that. And there's a pivotal moment in my life, right? I can tell it wasn't, I'm really sorry, it sounds really callous. I'm really relieved she's still with us. It took her about 5 years to recover from the surgery that she had. She was, for 5 years, I didn't have my mom, basically.
Yeah.
It was someone else. And then one day, bang, she was back. It was great. But that was a pivotal moment in my life. Life is short.
Yeah.
Understand that, something could kill us at any point, or understand we might get these horrible, horrible, horrible choices at any point. Now, I'm not trying to do a TED talk here. What I'm trying to say is,
Are you sure?
that's how you that's how you do a pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah.
It's what happened, what was the outcome from it. I'm not saying, hey, people, my mom had this operation, so just remember, she could have died. So remember, life is short, and be nice to each other this weekend, because just like my mom, you could be dead by the end of the weekend. That's not
Right.
not how I'm explaining it to people.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, one I can recall two moments. I've had one with my daughter and one with my son, where two things have happened, and it was the first time I was in the hospital with my daughter, and she had a whole thing with her face and her brain. They found a spot on her brain, and when they didn't know what it was, and they couldn't tell us what it was. And the doctors came in and they're like, we don't know, but this is the next step that we're going to take, and we'll keep you posted. We were going to stay in the hospital indefinitely. And then there was another time with my son where the school had lost my son, and my son was found a half a mile away from the school. And both times I was like, in the moment, I'm like, okay, we're dealing with this. This is all business. And then when everything started to calm down, both times vomited. I had no control of that, but my body was like just so amped up from stress. And that's the thing. Your body has reactions that you cannot control. And there's none of that either. She doesn't have either feelings that she can control. There was nothing that she talked about that she couldn't control. There's just nothing there. And, she talks about how she's wanted to be a mom forever. And I did not. And then I decided later I wanted kids. And then things have happened to my children. And it's like, I would die for my children. These are moments that when I talk about them, I still bring them up. I still cry. And when she explains experiencing a miscarriage and losing children, there's nothing.
Yeah. So I've just told you a couple of emotional stories from my life. You've just told me about your issues around your children. One of them, your child being missing, it's happened to me for half an hour. Sorry, maybe 10 minutes, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
It feels like forever.
So I've maybe had an emotional 5 minutes. I can feel myself tearing up when you were talking about your children there, because this has been an emotional conversation. That's what emotion looks like,
Right. All right.
I'm not sitting there doing make me cry for my TED talk.
Well, you're also not sitting there like, okay, I'm talking
I
about
would have a hard time with that bad boy.
Right. I would never, I don't know. There's nothing about me like trying to figure out how I'm looking and how I'm sounding when I'm telling a story about some of the worst moments of my life.
Yeah. That's a really good point. We've both shared very personal, emotional stories. You've shared a lot of them through this. Were you thinking about the words you used, or were you using your experience, that part of your brain where the events that have happened to you and the feelings that you felt at the time are stored, and just send it? Your brain will send that automatically to your mouth. The words will be the best way I can think of describing this is we all breathe, right? And our body decides what's the best breath for us. So while you and I have been talking here and people have been watching, I bet very few people have thought about breathing. I need to breathe in at this point, or I need to breathe out. And now, obviously, I'm going to think about breathing because I'm talking about it. But Our brain looks after our breathing. It does the amount of breathing it thinks is necessary for us. You can control your breathing. If you meditate, you can actually take complete control of your breathing. If you're doing exercise, you can take control of your breathing to get more air in that you need, and so on. Words work the exact same way. Most of the time, you're in that automatic breathing mode where your brain is just picking the best words that fit. So you don't have to go to the hassle of thinking about which words to use. That's why things like pronouns and tenses just come tumbling out of our mouth without going, should I use the past tense here? Or should I use the present tense? I'll use the present tense. That doesn't happen. Every now and again, we are in situations where we have to pick our words deliberately. Like I'm trying to explain quite a complex thing now. So I'm thinking about what is the best words I can use to describe this to people. So my words are coming from a different part of our mind, because I'm thinking about it very, very carefully. But also when we're lying, we have to try and use that deliberate part, because we're on guard, because if our brain uses the truth, it will just, wow,
Yeah.
and we'll say something we don't want to do. We've got to hold ourselves back. A classic, I was talking about this in the on Reddit. If you listen to the GoFundMe discussion from the bankruptcy hearing of Jan and
Yeah.
Ron, Jan says that was started for my husband by friends. And there's this big pause. And I'm like, that is deliberate choice of words. I'm not saying it's a lie. What I'm saying is she had to be really careful there. She wanted to use the right word for who
Right.
started that GoFundMe. And it was interesting. She didn't say friends and family. She said friends, only friends. And she was, that pause is what deliberate talking things like. It's not an indication of a lie. You just know which mode someone's in when you hear them going a bit slower and talking like that.
Now, this TED Talk, and we know, I think the TED Talk's like 10 minutes, maybe. It's not very long. What do you think about this taking 4 days to record?
Well, I'm in two minds on this. I do a lot of media recording, and have done for a while.
Sure.
I mean, if I was doing a 10-minute, I mean, it annoys me. Like I do about an hour episode every week.
Mhm.
And if that takes me an hour and a half to record because I F up or something like that really annoys me. But maybe I'm just used to it. But 4 days for 10, I think maybe 18 minutes or something like that is a lot. And I get it. It's hard when you've got a script. You get to this thing where it's like, so where's that script that I had? There. That's the script for my episode, which is out this weekend. And I'll fuck it up and I'll fuck it up.
Wait, you don't have a teleprompter?
No.
Jack, no, it'll change your life.
I don't want a teleprompter.
Oh, I have one just to keep me on track because I'll make videos for hours. I'll just talk forever.
I'll read that script and I'll mess it up, or I'll put the wrong emphasis on somewhere, or I'll just say words, with the wrong stresses and so on.
Yeah.
And it will get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I'll have that mental talking to myself. All right, come on, you got to do this. Breathe, smile, deliver. But sometimes I can get in a real rut, and that's just so most of my videos
you're not
are
recounting a personal experience.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about R. Kelly's interview with Gayle King, which I never even watched at the time.
I hate that. Gayle is such a queen in there when she's just sitting and he's like standing up over. Don't even get me started. Anyways, but that's the thing is you're not taking 4 days to recount a personal story that you've experienced. And that's what I find so wild is like for you and you have your written scripts, or for myself and I have a teleprompter so that we can stay on track. And I understand her going in there with a script or bullet points or whatever, but for you to have to pull and add and, oh, I don't like the way that I said that in this moment. It's odd to me. It's very odd behavior.
Yeah, I'm thinking about I've never done a TED Talk, and I wouldn't like to, but I have done important presentations in my life before, and they've usually been live. And if I've given a 10-minute presentation, the most I would have spent rehearsing it would be an hour. Like 6 times 10. Like in terms of like delivering it. So it's really excessive.
I agree. How much time you got? You interested in going over this chicken soup?
Yeah. Let me just see where my.
Also, if anybody has questions for Jack in the chat, please.
Okay, let me just see where my meal is.
Oh, what are you getting?
Very appropriate. I'm having lemon schnitzel with sweet potato fries and coleslaw.
What is a schnitzel?
As you know, it is. Well, I don't eat meats, but normally they've got meat and they're wrapped in breadcrumbs.
Oh, okay. So yours is like a vegetable one?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a vegan?
No, I'm not. I'm the best way. I don't eat meat for health reasons. I feel shitty after eating meat, and I feel much more alive after not eating meat.
But just like a vegetarian?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll eat fish. And if someone makes a pepperoni pizza, I'll quite happily have that. I've no
Okay.
like ethical objections to meat or anything like that.
Yeah, that's my brother-in-law was vegan for a while and then he was and now he's vegetarian, but I think we'll eat chicken nuggets from time to time. How do I bring this to the stage? All right, there we go. Okay. So we'll try to fly through this. But okay, so she has the same obviously now they're going to, just Reykjavik, not Iceland. But here we have despite a delay of more than a dozen hours, the excitement was contagious as the passengers boarded the plane. The flight attendants greeted everyone with a smile and didn't look like they were being paid to give it. I overheard the phrases Blue Lagoon, Northern Lights, and dog sledding repeatedly as they exchanged pleasantries with the travelers.
I'm sure someone can Google and find out if there was a delay of a dozen hours on that flight on that date.
Right. And also, who's excited? Like, I would be like, you're irritated, you're getting on the plane, like, you're just the anticipation of being ready to go. Like, I mean, I guess the excitement of, but I'm just like, it's just like, we were delayed a dozen hours. I'd be like,
And
I
we've
was
got
ready to kill somebody.
we've got that passive voice again there. The excitement was contagious. There's no person involved in that. There's no, the
Oh,
excitement was contagious.
I
It's
was so
just the
excited.
concept. Yeah. Or the
Yeah.
passengers were all excited. Or, the group of us were so excited, or my seat, the people sitting around me were so excited. The passengers were so excited. There's no people in there whatsoever. The excitement was contagious.
Hmm. We were all going to the same destination, but I felt worlds away from everyone else on board. My wishes for this trip were much different than my fellow passengers who were looking forward to making memories on a once in a lifetime vacation. Um, Now this is directly from her as opposed to she changed it and it was from Napkin Lady and then
Yes.
it was her experience. Like they shared that, but this is now just only how she's experiencing it. In my case, I hoped that a change of scenery would fix what had become not just toxic but scary. And feel free to interrupt me at any time. I turned to look at the tall, extremely good looking man next to me and admonished myself for even thinking of those words about him. I flashed back to our first several months together, marked by intense physical and emotional chemistry like I had never felt before. He, he had easily earned the approval of my friends and my family. It felt like a dream, but it turned into a nightmare.
I'm sorry. She just can't resist a cliche, can she? It was the dream that turned into the nightmare.
Everything is. It didn't happen all at once, but gradually. Again, the process, right? Like she
Mm,
understands how these things work. The man who
yeah.
made me feel like I could accomplish anything began to make me doubt myself.
I
And again,
just
me.
sort of, yeah, and couldn't I just jump in there? The man who
Yeah.
made me feel like I could accomplish anything, success. Is in there, isn't it? Again, there's
Yeah.
this, these what are these things that I believe the things that we mention a lot are the things that are inside our head, the things that drive us, the things that we aim for, and accomplish anything, success.
Well, and the other thing I find so interesting is like he made me doubt myself. Whereas it's like, I don't know how I'm trying to explain it, but it's like when you're explaining these situations and you're in abusive situations, I feel like for me, I don't explain it that way, right? Like he made me feel like he loved me. I thought he loved me. He told me he loved me. Like you put him in that scenario instead of yourself.
Now, you've really hit something there. Remember and I commented a couple of times when you were reading the text from Laura to Mike, and it was always like, I feel now this is behind us. I can be a better girlfriend, and I can do this for you, and I can make you a happy person. I remember she said all those things. It was always an intention. It
Yeah,
wasn't
and
like,
every text message she ever sends, Jack.
but look at how she describes relationships through that. I know you said transactional, but also there, he made me feel like I could do this. And in her text, it's I make you feel you can do this. There's no we.
Right.
There's no together we could build something amazing.
Right.
Like
We're a team.
yeah, we're a team, we can do anything. Or you put the wind in my sails, but without you putting the wind in my sails, I wouldn't have the wind in my sails. There's none of that.
Right.
Made me feel like I could achieve anything. I can be the best girlfriend ever now that we've got beyond this. There's no together in her wordings around relationships.
Yeah, there's nothing about being a couple.
Yeah. Where that must be learned behavior.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they're very separate. See, again, he stopped telling me I was beautiful. Whereas you would recall the words that they said, like he wasn't attracted to me anymore. He told me that, he didn't love me, or instead of saying like I was unlovable, he told me he didn't love me. He said that I was ugly, that I was fat, that I was all these things, but it also comes with what he said in before it's how he makes you feel. I don't know, that's just how I would do it. But
Yeah.
again, it's me. I
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
And he started to compare me to other women. When I asked him what had changed, he turned the tables on me and said that I was to blame for his behavior, which uh, they're not that open. It's a very subtle way that abusers do this. They're never just like, "Well, this is your fault that I'm like this." It's a psychological game.
Yeah. But also, what behavior? This what she's mentioned beforehand. The only change is he stopped telling me I was beautiful and started to compare me to other women. That's not really behavior, is it? In a grand sense.
Right. Right, because you would say, like, for his behavior, he got mean, he was cold, he didn't it didn't feel like he loved me like he used to. Like, there's a change in the feeling of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I got defensive and said I was doing nothing differently, he took me by the hand and calmly explained that the point of a partnership is to make each other better. He claimed that if I listened to his suggestions, our relationship would bounce back to when things were good. Unfortunately, the abuse only worsened over time. My self esteem was at an all time low, and I felt like I needed to look to him for direction. When he said that going to Iceland might improve our relationship, I immediately booked the trip as a Christmas gift. And it's interesting reading these now, seeing all the text messages.
Yeah.
He never said this. I mean, from the text messages that we had, we don't know what he said in person, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, we have the text.
Yeah. And
Just
it was a podcast trip as well, wasn't it? It wasn't a Christmas gift.
right. They were supposed to go for work.
Yeah.
Just before takeoff, I leaned in to take a selfie, which this is a new detail of us to commemorate the start of the trip. But he grabbed my phone to stop me. Quote, I don't want people to know I'm here with you, okay? On that long flight, cut off from the world, there was no audience of friends to perform for. We could be our true selves, which for my boyfriend meant being cruel and vindictive. Among his litany of insults was that no one else would want to date me, and no one, not even my family, could love me as I was. Tears streamed down my face for the entire flight. And as I thought about what those around me must be thinking of me, it was hard not to believe him. Midway through the flight, he stood to go to the bathroom. He looked down at my face, read as I continued to sob, quote, you look ugly. Again, her looks.
Hmm.
It's very much around her
Yeah.
looks. He whispered before he walked away. I was 36,000 feet in the air with hundreds of strangers. There's hundreds of people on a plane. How many people did they put on a plane? How big are these planes?
Well, she was in 22H, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's eight, at least 22 times eight. That'd be over 100, wouldn't
Okay. I'm just like, how big are they? What is this, an Airbus? I don't But I had never felt so low and alone. I was an ocean away from anyone who cared about me. I was lost in my thoughts when a note on a cocktail napkin slipped through the space between the two seats in front of me. At first, I didn't want to open it because I was certain it was about to make my in-flight I was certain it was about my in-flight breakdown, which would only make me feel worse, but curiosity got the better of me. I read it quickly and then put it away, terrified he would see it when he returned from the laboratory.
it? We again have passiveness.
Okay.
No one who put the note through. I was lost in my thoughts when a note on a cocktail napkin slipped through the space on its own magically.
Right. When a
Here comes the
woman.
napkin. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Interesting. So then we have, obviously the note. It was the punch in the gut being told he didn't care about me. It was a wake-up call. He was abusive. Which is funny. It seems like you knew it was abusive when you got on the plane.
Mm.
So this is the wake-up call?
Yeah, she's described this deteriorating relationship now
Right,
which is actually a very new element compared to the TED Talks because she doesn't really talk about any abuse or verbal abuse prior to the flight, does she? In the TED Talks, it, I think it might be alluded to, but now this has been building up, and
right,
she's questioned him about it. She says, it's so big in her life, she's had to question him about this, changes in behavior and so on.
right, and that's the thing. She bought these as a Christmas gift to remove the toxicity
Mm.
from this relationship. But now all of a sudden, this is a punch in the gut that this is happening.
Yeah.
It was a warning that my life was in danger. It was justification for his comments causing the emotions I displayed. It made me believe I deserved more. It was a reminder that there are good people in the world. In the end, just over 100 words written on a cocktail napkin by a complete stranger outweighed the countless acts of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse I experienced with my ex-boyfriend. And I find it interesting, like I said, we always tell our stories and they're always a bit different, right? You use different words, or you bring up maybe a way you sort of experienced it differently because you're in a different time in your life. Countless sticks through all three.
Also, outweighed. I don't know anyone who has been abused and something else outweighs it. You can compare things. Do you know what I mean? Like you can, say my life is better now than when I was being abused, but outweighed the countless acts of abuse. No, they've always will carry a weight, will they not?
Yeah, yeah. I've never looked at one thing in my life and one experience and have given more weight to one or another. They're just experiences that you
Yeah,
have.
yeah, exactly. Again, outweighed transactional. You know,
I
I'm
did
going to
this because of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to buy a new car. One of them's lots of money, but it's electric, so it will save me fuel. One of them is much cheaper, but it will cost me more in the long run. Oh, probably want the electric one, but that outweighs the electric outweighs the. Does that make sense? Like that's
Yeah.
transactional when you
Yeah.
outweigh something.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, let's talk about the experience that I had with my kids. I don't see either one of those as more like worse than the other one. They're just different experiences. I've never put weight on either one of those things.
And also, when you was it your son that went missing, did you say?
Yes.
That's a story that stuck with me because I've been there. I've really been there. Um, does the fact he was found outweigh the fact that he was lost?
No.
No,
I didn't even think about that. No.
no,
Okay,
I
all's better. That's fine.
yeah, that's fine. It's outweighs it. So no, that for better or worse, that feeling is a life lesson for you of number one, how much you love your son, like a reminder, an actual reminder of how much you love him. Number two, it is probably a reminder of I never want this to happen again, so I'm
Yeah.
always going to hold him close, or something like that. The fact he was found doesn't outweigh that feeling at all.
No. No. Not at all. Acts of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse I experienced with my ex-boyfriend. She left her contact information, and one of the first things I did after the breakup was reach out to her. So now she's time jumping again. She told me she almost didn't write the note and that after she passed it to me, she second guessed her decision. When did she talk to her? Oh, I guess on the phone. Okay.
Did in the I don't know the full lore. Did Mike split up with Laura? Was he the instigator?
So that's one thing that nobody can really answer. I need to talk to Mike. I'm going to message him and see if he'll do an interview with me, because that seems to be the one thing that's kind of unclear in the timeline is how it really came to an end, because the next thing that we hear in the story is that he tried to end it peacefully, and then he goes to a restaurant with a new girl that he was seeing, and he runs into Laura and her mom.
Because in this and the one we read, she jumps over this ending of the relationship. She doesn't ever talk about the moment she left,
Right.
or the moment that he decided he'd had enough and gone off, or whatever happened there, which makes me wonder if Little Miss Ego can't bring herself to say, and it wouldn't work as well in a victim narrative quite as well as that he decided that he'd had enough and went his separate ways.
Right. A question for Jack. Earlier in this, she wrote something about not even her family could love her. How much insight could those words have into her? Because words are a choice.
Ooh, good question. I mean, the problem with that one is that this is where it gets really complex, because this is her writing what she claimed Mike said. Now you've got to then parse, like, if Mike did say that as an insight into his character. I don't think for a second Mike did say it, but like that's one of the possibilities I have to think about. But I like I said with the TED Talk script, I think a lot of what the insults that she's putting in Mike's mouth are self-projection, and also the things that hurt us quite often are the things that we worry about. Like, so if someone said, like I was saying earlier, if someone said to me, "You're ugly," I'd be like, well, don't care. If someone said to me, "You're unlovable," I'd be like, I really want to be liked. I'm a people pleaser. So that would get me a little bit more. So if I
Okay.
was like, okay, I'm making up a story now, and someone said the worst things imaginable to me, ugly wouldn't come into my mind. It would be unlovable, or, not nice to spend time with. Like those sort of things that are values and really important to me. That would
Yeah.
be the things I'd say they said. But we do have to sort of take into consideration this is very complex, because I think it's Laura writing about things that Mike would say, and Mike might have said them, but she might just be talking the biggest load of shit as well.
Okay. She said she often wondered what happened to me, and I got to thank her for saving my life. It took time to comprehend what had happened, and keeping it a secret only made it weigh more heavily on me. So a lot about the weight. And you know what else we see is when we see Jan's writings to her brother, it's always about you have the weight, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. I have, and when Laura talks about other things, it's very much about the weight on them from these things. This is a verbiage that she uses a lot. Um,
Sorry, it took time to comprehend what had happened. What was she saying? She was keeping secret there, the abuse.
um, yeah, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Long after the breakup, as I edited an old photo of myself in a bikini poolside for Throwback Thursday, I realized I couldn't remember what year it was taken or where. Okay. It felt disingenuous to be presenting overly filtered shut up, long forgotten days to the world as if they were the most significant, when in reality, the day I remember the most is December 30th of 2016, when a stranger slipped me a handwritten note on a cocktail napkin on a nonstop flight to Iceland. Which is funny. She talks a lot about face tuning and, editing yourself and uh in
And
a
I've had a lot of Botox and procedures and
well,
cool
but
sculpting. Yes.
so the did you see my stream that I did with Brad?
Yes. Oh God, he was brilliant.
But did you see the picture that we found
Yes.
on the street? Yeah.
Yes. I
You
was.
face tuned a domestic violence picture. What are
Our
you
words
doing?
will always tell on us.
Good Lord. Would I always yell, "Oh, shut up." Like, I can't stand it. Judging by my news feed, my friends couldn't empathize with difficult times, so I devoured self-help books. Nothing impacted me more than a quote from my favorite author, Brene Brown, who said, "When we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending," which I find interesting because she's always about rewriting the ending. I realized that if I wrote about how much a random act of kindness saved my life, it could serve as a reminder to look out for each other. I shared a photo of the note and received dozens of messages. And then, wait, oh, I only have 4 of 4. Why don't I have any more?
No.
Wait. Oh, wait. Oh, it only goes to 4. Damn it. Volo. But that's it. Hold on. Let me see if there's another. Um, I don't know if there is. But anyways, I just found it interesting that some of the details change. Some of them, I don't know.
But
Your
again,
thoughts?
it's the same. It's the what's missing. It's once more we don't have. Here's how it. Here's the word that got to me. Here, it's what it is. Is someone was nice to me. That is her. That's her best way of describing this note. It's not the words in it. What does she have to say? if you look at that, what does she say inspired it? It was the Brené Brown quote. Not any of the words that are inside the napkin. It's the Brené Brown quote that inspired her. And, I actually can make a clear line between that Brené Brown quote and how Laura acts. I can't make she doesn't tell me how the note impacted her, apart from it impacted me.
Have you read the note?
The napkin note.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yours, oh yeah, you already told me you're not gonna
Yeah.
give thoughts because are you gonna make a video about that?
Yeah, I'm going to do a video on that eventually. There's so many requests to do it, and about like many things, especially around Laura. I'm like, I think it's kind of small. I don't think there's very much in it, and then I'll go, yeah, and stuff just kept coming up. So yes, I will do the note. Subscribe and follow.
Yeah, subscribe and follow. No, but I have to ask. Well, no, because I don't want to. I'll ask you off stream, so that's a question you can answer on your video because I don't want to ask you now. Okay, so that's all I have for you. Do you have anything you want to add?
I'm like you. I really don't like her. I want to be sitting. I think that she's. I sit and I'm doing an episode. I've recorded an episode on R. Kelly. I have done serial killers and so on. These are really horrible people. And I'm not saying what she's done is great, but by comparison, it's small time, obviously massively impacts on people like Mike and Clayton and Greg's lives. I don't want to minimize that. But my God, there's something about her which is just, she really, really winds me up. And
I think, well, obviously it's a stolen valor, but I think the thing is like you have all the evidence in front of you and you still just choose to be like, nah, that didn't happen. Like,
yeah.
What?
I think that's, do you know what? That's another fascinating thing is because of her permanently online lifestyle.
Yeah.
We have so much in front of us. And also just the way she conducts herself. Because think about Mackenzie Shrilla or Taylor Parker in those Netflix documentaries. We've got what was in court. And I know a lot of Laura's stuff was in court, but she's been in court that many times. We've got a bloody lot of it, but there is just lots and lots and lots and lots.
How is word analysis different with spoken and written words?
Written, we tend to be, it depends on the writing. So if I send a quick text message, that's pretty much like speaking, and you actually do speak your messages. But something like this script for this TED Talk is at least being considered and probably polished. And it's that thing of sometimes we speak or we write in the automatic mode where we don't think about the words. It comes out by some, look into the science behind this. The science of how our brain gives us those words is phenomenally complex. It's amazing. We do these really complex things without thinking about them when we talk and when we write. But sometimes, more often, writing is that automatic note of a mode of going, right, the words I want to say here are, or the sales pitch I want to give in this, or I want to be really rich in this. So there are differences, mostly because if you write something, especially like a TED Talk, you can edit it and go back over it and boost it up, and you've got to be aware of that. I always like to say you get more with someone's first, so when they're speaking, there's no filter, and that's great. But actually, when you know the filter that's been applied and you see what they're doing, that can also be really, really instructive.
Well, and it's funny because, obviously, when I speak or I do anything, that's just me. That's just who I am. Whenever I want to feel more articulate, it's always typing. That's always when the words flow much differently than how I would. It's a way of saying them, but it's just a more polished version.
But you have to tell off one of your kids and you have to deliver a life lesson to them. Not like a don't do that, tidy your room, but something that you can find the right words speaking, then using that almost like the process you'd use when you're writing, but I'm not saying their lives depend on the lesson the words you have to say getting through, but it's important. And I bet you can go, right, I need to get this. I need to say things so they
Right.
really listen to me here.
I need to edit it. Okay, so she obviously the plea deal ends today. So I need to know. I'm keeping a journal. Okay.
Oh,
And I have Brad's upstairs. Okay, two things.
yeah,
Number one, do you think she takes the plea deal or do you think she goes to trial?
both.
What do you mean both?
What's Laura very good at?
Fucking with everybody? What? So you think she goes to trial and then takes it last minute?
No, I mean maybe, but I think more likely is she'll accept some sort of plea deal, which is, by the way, I'm from the UK. I don't know Arizona laws at all, but I understand that this is how it could go down. She says, "Yeah, I'll take the plea deal, but you have to enter your plea in court at a hearing." And if she then goes, "Actually, I've changed my mind," that derails everything. And it should
Shut up.
start tomorrow, but it won't. Maybe I'm putting ideas into her head and she hasn't thought of this. But I was thinking about this morning, listening to Love Trapped and going, what's she known for? And it's delaying. And what is the best way of delaying?
All right.
It's to say, oh, I'll take this plea deal, right? Okay. And then start. I saw it with Brian Kronberger, Idaho 4 guy. He had to stand up in court and say, yeah, I am pleading guilty to this. And you understand that blah, 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 blah. He said, yeah. So if she says no, or, oh, that wasn't explained to me. No one explained my Fifth Amendment, right? Sorry, no, I'm not doing this anymore. That will throw everything into chaos.
All right. I also have Omar in the chat, which I'm very interested to hear. Omar says trial for sure. Also, Omar, I'll need to know, how long do you think she'll get sentenced to? Because we all know if she goes to trial, she's guilty. Guilty. But what do you think it will be at the end? Brad thinks very long sentence. I think 3 years jail or prison time. I don't see more than 5.
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
None. No jail time.
No jail. God.
No jail time.
You think it'll be like a long probation?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put this all up in my Discord and we'll see. We'll have to have a winner party. But yeah, I'm trying to take like all creators what they're thinking. What's the over under?
Brilliant. Well, yeah. So I mean, I'm surely going to win, but if I said plea deal and trial, so yeah.
Also, I have a note from my husband. He said, "Tell your Scottish friend that I think it's hilarious that you guys came to the U.S. and drank Boston out of all of our liquor."
Yeah, we. I mean, we're not going to be known for the quality of our football. So if we're known for the quality of our drinking, then that was something. I've had many great nights in Boston, so I was proud of our boys.
Oh my God. Chris Jenner, have either of you seen Laura's interview with Dr. Shifali? It's a 45-minute interview about her TEDx talk and a good baseline for Laura's mannerisms. I have not seen that yet.
Have you not?
No.
Someone sent it to me, and it made me really angry because it was someone buying the narrative, and it was almost like that. And remember this TED talk was at the Me Too moment, like where it was like,
Yeah.
I just believe everything everyone says because that's the way to do it. And yes, it's 45 minutes, so that's quite a lot of Laura.
Yeah. I haven't heard. I tried to listen to her podcast in the very beginning when I was first covering this, and I'm like, she's insufferable. I can't listen to her. Anything you would like to say to the people before we leave?
No, I would say without trying to plug my own stuff because I hate
No,
when
please
do
it. No, I love it. Go to Never a Truer Word. You know what? I'm going to pull it up on screen right now, just so everybody knows what it looks like. We're gonna plug Jack right now. Shameless plug, please.
Shameless plug only comes from me. But I truly believe it will make your life better. I'm not making big claims like it will transform your life or anything like that, but you will learn something that you will notice that will protect you, or it could be a sleazy salesman. But actually, I'll give you a plug. I'm doing R. Kelly this week. He's an abuser. He's in jail for being an abuser.
Good.
And in that interview, he just talks like abusers talk. And I think that especially for women, but for everyone, learning how abusers talk, the patterns of speech they use, the techniques that they use, is really, really useful and protective.
Yeah. I've looked at things differently now that I listen to you. I look at so many things differently when I read them, honestly, and it's so interesting now to sit there and pick things apart when people are saying them. And I've started doing it in the text too. When she, because I go over, I'm in the weeds, man. But we're going over the text, and it's very eye opening to see and pull it apart. How did you get, like, what is your professional background besides radio?
That is it. So I spent many years running radio stations. I basically wanted to be like a really slick DJ like Ron Owens
You wanted
when
to
I was
be
a
Ron
kid. Yeah,
Owens?
I wanted to be Ron Owens. I would love, what a great job talking to people. And actually, I turned into a better producer and runner of radio stations and manager and all that sort of stuff. So that's really what my career has been,
Okay.
which is like, we talked about the words. I love music as well. So radio is words and music. It's just like perfect career.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. This is Jack's channel. I have it linked in my description box, and I also have it linked in the community tab on my channel. Jack, I hope to have you back. This was wonderful.
I will more than, well, see now, because
We
we're joint pronouns, we can do something again soon. I'd love that.
we had a good time. All right.
Right?
Well, we'll know
Are you
more on
listening, Mr.
Monday.
Bears?
Yeah.
We had a good time, yeah?
Justice for Mr. Bears. I guess. No, never, never. All right, everyone, make sure that you subscribe, like, bang your face against the keyboard. And I am probably going to go back. I have another hour. So I'll probably do a second set on my channel if you guys want to stick around. And other than that, we will say goodbye to Jack
I'll be watching with my schnitzel.
with my schnitzel. All right. Bye, everyone.